5. Gallipoli, Landings, Legends and Losses. The Gallipoli Campaign, which took place from 1915 to 1916 in World War I, is widely regarded as a highly significant and tragic military endeavor of modern history. In an effort to establish a maritime route to Russia and weaken the Ottoman Empire's involvement in the war, the Allies initiated a bold amphibious attack on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Nevertheless, the campaign swiftly transformed into a prolonged state of deadlock, characterized by tactical errors, intense opposition, and staggering loss of life. This chapter explores the landings, the emergence of legends from the battle, and the significant casualties suffered by both opposing forces. The topic of landings encompasses both ambition and miscalculation. The Gallipoli campaign was initiated by the Allied powers, primarily composed of British, French, Australian, and New Zealand forces, through a naval offensive. Subsequent to multiple unsuccessful endeavors to compel the Dardanelles Strait, they ultimately opted for a terrestrial incursion. The Allies conducted their amphibious landing on April 25, 1915. As a result of navigational errors and strong Ottoman resistance, a significant number of troops were mistakenly deployed on incorrect beaches, encountering challenging cliffs and heavily fortified Turkish positions. The audacity of the assault and the resilience demonstrated by the soldiers, particularly the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, ANZAC, achieved legendary status. Legends. The emergence of the ANZAC spirit. The ANZAC legend emerged during the Gallipoli campaign. Despite overwhelming challenges, the Australian and New Zealand troops demonstrated remarkable courage, perseverance, and camaraderie. The actions they performed on the shores of Gallipoli have since become significant legends that have shaped the national identities of both nations. The ANZAC spirit was exemplified by individuals like John Simpson Kirkpatrick, an Australian field ambulance stretcher-bearer who courageously transported wounded soldiers to safety amidst continuous gunfire, utilizing a donkey for assistance. The stories of bravery, in the face of challenges, would strongly resonate within the collective consciousness of Australia and New Zealand. The topic of losses in warfare can be described as a tragic stalemate. Although the Gallipoli campaign initially achieved some victories, it soon became mired in a stalemate of trench warfare similar to that experienced on the Western Front. The Allied forces were unable to make any progress in either advancing or retreating. Under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the Ottoman forces exhibited remarkable resilience and determination. The conditions were extremely challenging. The troops encountered challenging conditions, including intense heat, scarcity of water, and a persistent adversary. The prevalence of diseases was widespread, resulting in a significant increase in casualties. After an extended period of unproductive fighting and the absence of any significant progress, the Allies eventually acknowledged the lack of strategic value in continuing the campaign. An evacuation decision was made. The evacuation was a highly successful component of the campaign, characterized by minimal casualties. Both factions incurred significant losses by the conclusion of the campaign. The Allies and Ottoman forces both suffered approximately 300,000 casualties. The significant loss of life, particularly among the ANZAC troops, had a profound impact on their respective countries. In conclusion, it can be stated that the Gallipoli campaign exemplifies the grim realities of contemporary warfare, the difficulties encountered in amphibious operations, and the uncertain outcomes of military ventures. The film demonstrated the bravery of individual soldiers and gave rise to legendary figures that would serve as sources of inspiration for entire nations. However, it also emphasized the tragic outcomes of strategic misjudgments and the severe toll on human lives caused by warfare. The enduring impact of Gallipoli persists in contemporary times. Anzac Day, observed on April 25th, serves as a poignant commemoration of the sacrifices made by Australian and New Zealand soldiers. It provides an opportunity for contemplation on the wider concepts of war, national identity, and remembrance. 6. The Jungle's Silent Hunters, Guerrilla Warfare in Vietnam. The Vietnam War is a highly debated and extensively researched conflict of the 20th century. The narrative of the text focuses on the significant role of guerrilla warfare in the Vietnam War, which was primarily utilized by the North Vietnamese Army, NVA, and the Viet Cong, VC. This chapter extensively examines the tactics, strategies, and impact of guerrilla warfare in the jungles of Vietnam, highlighting its effectiveness and elusiveness as a threat to conventional military forces. A shadow-friendly landscape. Vietnam's landscape, characterized by dense jungles, murky swamps, and mountainous terrain, provided a favorable environment for guerrilla warfare. The dense canopy provided concealment, the diverse terrain offered means of escape, and the heavy monsoonal rains eliminated traces and pathways. The strategy of employing hit-and-run tactics. The principle of surprise and mobility is essential in guerrilla warfare. Smaller VC units frequently employed swift attacks against larger, less agile enemy forces before retreating into the jungle. The utilization of hit-and-run tactics, along with the extensive deployment of booby traps and ambushes, pose significant difficulties for the detection and counter-operations of U.S. and South Vietnamese forces. The Cu Kai Tunnels, an underground labyrinth. The Cu Kai Tunnel network is a highly recognizable symbol of guerrilla warfare in Vietnam. These tunnels, which extended over a vast distance, were an impressive example of engineering during times of war. These structures contained living quarters, storage areas, command centers, and makeshift hospitals. The tunnels provided the VC with protection from airstrikes and ground patrols, enabling them to launch attacks and retreat underground. Guerrilla fighters frequently depended on the local population for sustenance, intelligence, and recruitment. The blurred distinction between civilians and combatants posed additional challenges in the context of counterinsurgency operations. Additionally, this relationship allowed the VC to enhance their mobility by operating without the need for extensive supply lines. The psychological impact. In addition to its physical difficulties, guerrilla warfare exerted a significant psychological influence. The presence of an elusive adversary capable of launching unexpected attacks caused anxiety and psychological strain among American military personnel. The elusive nature of this warfare posed challenges in defining victories and measuring progress. Adapting to the hunting environment. The U.S. military endeavored to adapt in response to the challenges posed by guerrilla warfare. Strategies such as search and destroy missions, the establishment of strategic hamlets, and the utilization of defoliants like Agent Orange were implemented to neutralize the advantages held by the Viet Cong, VC. However, these frequently brought about their own controversies and complexities. The War of Perseverance. Guerrilla warfare encompasses both tactical maneuvers and the crucial elements of morale and endurance. The NVA and VC exhibited remarkable resilience, displaying a willingness to endure substantial casualties and persist in their combat efforts. Their strategy aimed to protract the conflict and erode the resolve of the U.S. and South Vietnamese governments, rather than seeking outright military triumphs. In conclusion, it can be stated that the guerrilla nature of the Vietnam War highlights the difficulties that conventional military forces encounter when confronted with irregular warfare in intricate landscapes. This emphasizes the necessity of being adaptable, the significance of comprehending local dynamics, and the frequently ambiguous distinction between combatants and civilians. The guerrillas of Vietnam, known as the Jungle's Silent Hunters, significantly influenced the outcome of the war. Their tactics and strategies have left enduring lessons in military studies and discussions on contemporary warfare, encompassing conflict, resilience, and strategy. 11. Sniper's Gaze, Deadly Shadows of War. In the context of warfare, The sniper is a silent presence amidst the intense battles and resounding artillery. Snipers, characterized by their elusive movements, possess a distinctive role in military operations, characterized by attributes such as patience, precision, and the utilization of psychological tactics. This chapter examines the tactics, impacts, and historical significance of deadly marksmen in military history. The role of a sniper in military operations. Snipers, in contrast to other soldiers, typically engage in covert and indirect operations. Their role is diverse and complex. Prime targets for elimination include high-ranking officers, communication runners, and machine gun crews. Intelligence gathering is a crucial aspect of snipers' role, as they can provide valuable insights to command through their observations. Psychological warfare can be achieved through the presence of a sniper, which can immobilize enemy movements and instill fear. Precision-oriented visual perception. The classification of a sniper is not solely determined by the type of weapon they use, but rather by their proficiency in a range of skills. Their exceptional visual acuity, capacity for prolonged stillness, and remarkable patience distinguish them from others. The training they undergo is rigorous and emphasizes skills such as camouflage, shooting in diverse conditions, and understanding ballistics. Historical significance. Snipers have historically exerted significant influence on the outcomes of battles and wars. World War I witnessed the emergence of snipers as a prevalent feature of warfare, primarily due to the trench warfare tactics employed during the conflict. Snipers, serving on both sides, were utilized as instruments of psychological warfare, instilling a sense of caution among soldiers who were constantly vigilant of their presence while observing the battlefield from the trench parapet. World War II's Eastern Front was notable for the emergence of renowned snipers such as Vasily Zaitsev. The urban ruins offered a favorable setting for snipers to cause widespread destruction. The Vietnam War utilized snipers due to the dense jungles and effective guerrilla tactics employed. Carlos Hathcock, an American sniper, achieved legendary status due to his impressive record of 93 confirmed kills. The tools used in a particular profession or field. The sniper's toolkit has undergone changes and advancements over the years. This text discusses the evolution of rifles from the Mosin Nagant used in World War I to the contemporary Barrett rifle. The accuracy and reliability of 50 caliber sniper rifles have been consistently improved over time. Camouflage techniques, such as the use of ghillie suits, face paint, and natural foliage, aid snipers in effectively blending into their surroundings. Snipers often operate in pairs, with one person serving as a spotter to assist in tasks such as identifying targets, estimating distances, and reading wind conditions. The psychological impact. Although snipers can cause psychological stress to the enemy, they are not impervious to the pressures associated with their role. Engaging in close surveillance of a target, comprehending their daily patterns, and subsequently determining the opportune moment to terminate their life can impose significant psychological strain. Snipers often struggle with the emotional impact of their kills, the prolonged periods of waiting, and the sense of isolation. The ethical debate. The employment of snipers frequently sparks controversy. There is a debate regarding the ethical implications of sniping in warfare. Proponents argue that it is a more humane method as it minimizes collateral damage, while opponents view it as an act of cold-blooded murder. The prominence of this debate increased notably during conflicts such as the Bosnian War, wherein civilians were deliberately targeted by snipers. In conclusion, it can be stated that the sniper, concealed within the shadows of conflict, embodies both accuracy and mortality. Their impact extends beyond mere casualties and fatalities, permeating the psyche of the adversary and establishing a constant and pervasive sense of threat. The role of a sniper in warfare is characterized by its subtle and somber nature, serving as a poignant reminder of the personal, quiet, and frequently hidden aspects of war. 12. The Battle for Berlin, Endgame in Europe. Among the many battles of World War II, the confrontation in Berlin stands out as highly significant. Berlin, the capital of Germany, was the ultimate battleground where the Allies converged to deliver the final blow to Nazi Germany, after it had served as the center of Hitler's powerful Third Reich. This chapter provides an in-depth analysis of the intense urban warfare that occurred in April 1945, signifying the final stages of the war in Europe. The path to Berlin. Germany's situation was dire by early 1945. The Allies had made substantial progress from the Western Front, while the Soviet Red Army was swiftly advancing from the Eastern Front. Despite being on the brink of defeat, Hitler adamantly refused to surrender and made a solemn commitment to defend Berlin at any expense. The Red Army's offensive. The Soviet Union faced the greatest share of combat in Berlin among all the Allied forces. Motivated by a quest for retribution for the extensive damage inflicted upon the USSR and the symbolic significance of seizing the capital of the Reich, Marshal Zhukov's forces initiated a substantial offensive in mid-April. The concept of street-to-street and building-to-building connectivity. Urban warfare, including the battle in Berlin, is widely recognized as a difficult and complex military operation. The urban environment transformed into a lethal labyrinth, characterized by its extensive array of structures, roads, and underground channels. The German troops, comprising individuals from various age groups such as the Volkssturm militia, displayed determined resistance in defending their positions. The Soviet forces encountered ambushes, snipers, and improvised barricades, resulting in intense close-quarters combat. The Reichstag holds significant symbolic value. The Reichstag, the parliamentary building of Germany, was considered a valuable prize by the Soviets. Capturing it would represent the downfall of Nazi Germany. On April 30th, Soviet soldiers successfully raised their flag on the building after intense combat, an event that was captured in photographs and has since become iconic. The final days of Adolf Hitler. Amidst the destruction of Berlin, Adolf Hitler sought refuge in the subterranean fear bunker, accompanied by his closest aides. Amidst the bombardment of the city by Soviet shells, Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun were wed and subsequently committed suicide on April 30th. The deceased individual's remains were promptly cremated in the garden area above. The fall of Berlin and the subsequent surrender of Germany. The German forces in Berlin surrendered on May 2, 1945, with some scattered pockets of resistance remaining. The city was severely damaged as a result of the intense conflict. The consequences and subsequent control of a military conflict. The capture of Berlin on May 7, 1945, resulted in the complete surrender of Nazi Germany, and subsequently led to the celebration of V-Day, Victory in Europe Day, on May 8. The city was later partitioned into sectors under the control of the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union. The division of Berlin led to the Cold War and the eventual partition of the city, resulting in the construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961. In conclusion, it can be inferred that the battle for Berlin exemplifies the intense and desperate nature of the concluding stages of World War II in Europe. The city, previously a symbol of Nazi aspirations, ultimately became its demise. The conclusion of the Berlin Endgame not only signified the downfall of the Third Reich, but also established the foundation for the geopolitical tensions that characterized the latter part of the 20th century. The battle was imbued with the weight of historical significance, evident in the ruins of the streets and the absence of gunfire. 14. Tanks of the Desert, Rommel's Afrika Korps. The North African desert during World War II witnessed a remarkable and intense armored confrontation. The Afrika Korps, commanded by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, played a central role in these conflicts. Rommel, known as the Desert Fox, made significant contributions to military strategy through his adept use of tanks and mechanized warfare. The genesis of the Afrika Korps. Originally deployed as a small contingent to provide assistance to the struggling Italian forces in Libya in 1941, the Africa Corps gradually developed into a formidable military presence. The primary objective of the mission was to impede the British Commonwealth forces and secure control over the strategically significant Suez Canal, which serves as a crucial passage connecting the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. The topic of discussion is war machines deployed in desert environments. The desert presented distinct obstacles for armored warfare. The challenging conditions of sand, extreme temperatures, and vast distances pose significant tests for both individuals and mechanical devices. Tanks such as the Panzer III and IV were extensively utilized by Rommel's forces and were adapted to suit the challenging sandy conditions. The topic of discussion is the military strategy known as blitzkrieg in the desert. Rommel emphasized speed, surprise, and encirclement in desert warfare by adapting the principles of blitzkrieg. He frequently circumvented enemy fortifications, launching attacks from their rear, thereby disrupting logistical networks and inducing disorder. The phenomenon of fluctuating power dynamics in conflicts. Rommel's campaigns were characterized by a series of fluctuating battles. The capture of Tobruk refers to the military operation in which Tobruk was taken over. The fall of Tobruk in 1942 was a significant victory for the Africa Corps, as it was a major port and stronghold. El Alamein, a modest railway station, served as the setting for two significant battles. The initial engagement at El Alamein effectively halted General Rommel's progression towards the Suez Canal. Under the leadership of General Montgomery, the second battle marked a significant turning point in the decline of the Africa Corps. Challenges and logistics. The Africa Corps was vulnerable due to their supply lines. The extensive length of their stretch made them susceptible to assaults from the British Long-Range Desert Group and other raiding parties. Fuel, water, and ammunition attained high value, comparable to gold, and frequently influenced the pace of military operations. Rommel's impact. Rommel, despite his affiliation with the Axis, garnered widespread admiration and respect from both allies and adversaries. He distinguished himself through his tactical acumen, honorable behavior, and concern for the well-being of his soldiers. His utilization of tanks, reconnaissance forces, and anti-tank guns in a combined arms strategy established precedents for subsequent developments in armored warfare. The conclusion in Tunisia. Following the loss at El Alamein in late 1942 and the subsequent Allied landings in Morocco and Algeria, Operation Torch, the Africa Corps faced encirclement from both the eastern and western fronts. In May 1943, the remaining troops under Rommel's command capitulated in Tunisia, signifying the conclusion of the Axis occupation in Africa. In conclusion, it can be inferred that the aforementioned evidence supports the notion that the stated argument is valid. The Desert War showcased the adaptability and resilience of soldiers and commanders in the face of vast landscapes and intense confrontations. Rommel's Africa Corps, known for its agile tactics and effective utilization of tanks, had a significant impact in this theater of operations. Despite their ultimate defeat, the legacy of their armored warfare tactics remains a subject of study and admiration among military enthusiasts and strategists globally. 15. Silent warriors, submarines and sea battles. The vastness of the Earth's oceans is both tranquil and formidable. Submarines are powerful and elusive weapons of warfare that operate beneath the ocean surface. Subsequently, these stealthy predators have assumed crucial roles in maritime confrontations, progressing from mere objects of underwater intrigue to formidable giants with the capacity to annihilate entire armadas and deploy nuclear weapons. The origins of submarines can be traced back several centuries. However, it was during the late 19th and early 20th centuries that they started to demonstrate significant military potential. The U-boat, known as such in Germany, emerged as a dominant force in naval strategies during the World Wars. The U-boat menace during World War I. The Great War marked the initial widespread deployment of submarines in warfare. German U-boats conducted patrols in the North Atlantic, posing a threat to the Allied shipping routes. The unrestricted submarine warfare campaign, characterized by U-boats attacking military and civilian ships without prior notice, greatly influenced the United States' entry into the war. The development of anti-submarine warfare over time. As the threat posed by submarines increased, corresponding efforts to mitigate it also escalated. Sonar, initially referred to as ASDEC, emerged as the principal method for detecting submerged submarines. Depth charges, anti-submarine mortars, and subsequently, aircraft were employed to locate and eliminate these subaquatic threats. The Battle of the Atlantic was a significant event during World War II. Submarine warfare reached its peak during the Second World War. The German Kriegsmarine aimed to disrupt Allied supply lines in the Atlantic by utilizing their technologically advanced U-boat fleet. The Battle of the Atlantic, which encompassed a series of confrontations, involved the use of convoy systems, wolfpack tactics, and technological advancements by both sides. The topic of discussion is the silent service in the Pacific. The Pacific theater posed a distinct challenge compared to the Atlantic due to submarine activity. Due to the immense size of the Pacific Ocean and the strategic need for island-hopping campaigns, a robust submarine force was imperative. The submarines of the U.S. Navy played a vital role in targeting Japanese merchant shipping and depleting the enemy's resources. The nuclear age has ushered in a new era of submarine warfare. Advancements in nuclear technology following World War II brought about a new era for submarines. The introduction of nuclear-powered submarines, exemplified by the USS Nautilus, enabled extended periods of submersion, primarily constrained by the availability of food. These submarines had the capability to achieve higher speeds and were nearly impossible to detect. The Cold War, a strategic competition in the depths. The Cold War brought about changes in submarine warfare. Rather than targeting convoys, the main goal was to identify and track the enemy's ballistic missile submarines, which were covertly positioned and prepared to respond in the event of a nuclear preemptive attack. The era was characterized by silent duels occurring beneath the polar ice caps, involving submarines such as the American Los Angeles class and the Soviet Akula class. In conclusion, it can be stated that submarines have played a significant and distinctive role in naval warfare as stealthy combatants in the underwater domain. From the simple manual boats of the past to the powerful nuclear ships of today, these vessels have evoked both fear and admiration. Submarines maintain their prominent role in naval strategy due to their enduring significance in maritime warfare, as technology advances and the geopolitical landscape changes. 16. Fire in the skies, dogfights and bomber raids. Since the early days of aviation, it was clear that aerial warfare had significant potential, as demonstrated by the use of delicate biplanes. Throughout the 20th century, the skies emerged as a crucial battleground, on par with land and sea theaters. The advent of fighters and bombers, their engagements, and the resultant devastation they caused, have become integral elements of contemporary warfare. The emergence of aerial warfare. World War I popularized the use of aerial warfare. Planes were initially employed for reconnaissance purposes. As pilots equipped themselves with firearms, including pistols and machine guns, the initial aerial engagements between enemy aircraft took place. The Sopwith Camel and the Fokker Dr. I were renowned biplanes that came to represent aerial warfare. The emergence of bomber aircraft. As aerial combat unfolded, it became evident that aircraft had the potential to transport payloads to hostile regions. Bombers such as the German Gotha and the British Handley Page were employed to deliver bombs on strategic targets, thereby exposing civilians to the aerial terror of warfare. The interwar period witnessed significant changes and developments. During the interwar period, there was significant progress in aviation technology. Metal replaced traditional materials such as wood and fabric in the construction of aircraft, while the advent of powerful engines enabled the development of faster and more heavily armed planes. Theorists such as Giulio Douhet from Italy posited that future wars could be effectively won by employing aerial bombardment as the primary strategy, which subsequently prompted nations to allocate resources towards the development of bomber fleets. World War II, also known as the Second World War, was a global conflict that took place from 1939 to 1945. It involved many nations and resulted in significant destruction and loss of life. One aspect of this war was the intense aerial warfare that occurred, with numerous battles taking place. The Second World War witnessed a significant increase in aerial combat. Intense aerial combat occurred over Europe, including the renowned Battle of Britain, which involved the Royal Air Force and the Luftwaffe. The Supermarine Spitfire and the Messerschmitt Bf 109 achieved legendary status. Bombers played a central role simultaneously. The Avro Lancaster from Britain and the Boeing B-29 Superfortress from America executed extensive raids within hostile territories. Dresden in Germany and Tokyo in Japan experienced significant damage as a result of area bombing. The post-World War II era witnessed a significant transformation in air combat with the advent of jet propulsion. During the Korean War, there were aerial battles involving jet-powered aircraft, such as the American F-86 Sabre and the Soviet-made MiG-15. Bombers also underwent evolutionary changes. The Cold War led to the advancement of high-altitude supersonic bombers with nuclear capabilities, such as the American B-52 Stratofortress and the Soviet Tu-95 Bear. The intersection of precision and technology. Contemporary air warfare prioritizes precision and technology, rather than relying solely on overwhelming firepower. Stealth technology, exemplified by aircraft such as the F-22 Raptor and the B-2 Spirit, enables clandestine operations. Precision-guided munitions are employed to achieve accurate targeting while minimizing unintended harm to surrounding areas. In conclusion, it can be stated that throughout history, the skies have witnessed a continuous process of evolution and innovation, ranging from the chaotic dogfights of World War I to the technologically advanced aerial duels of the present day. The romanticism surrounding early ace pilots and the fear induced by citywide bomber raids have been replaced by an era characterized by precision and stealth. However, the aerial maneuvers of aircraft in combat, symbolizing the intense conflict, continue to exemplify humanity's relentless pursuit of conquering uncharted territories. 19. The Human Cost, Tales from the Homefront. During every war, a parallel conflict unfolds on the domestic front while soldiers engage in combat on the front lines. This contest involves the demonstration of endurance, resilience, and profound human spirit. The narrative is influenced by accounts of fragmented families, children raised amidst conflict, and communities striving to preserve a sense of normality amidst turmoil. These are the narratives associated with them. The term waiting wives refers to the spouses of military personnel who are deployed and are awaiting their return. Sarah in London would sit by her window each evening, eagerly awaiting the arrival of the postman. Frequently, he delivered letters from her spouse, who was engaged in combat in France. The inked words, soiled with mud and occasionally marked with tears, served as her sole link to him. As time progressed, the burden of the increasing silence became more pronounced. The impact of armed conflict on children. In the midst of the war-ravaged city of Leningrad, young Ivan struggled to comprehend the scarcity of food. The reasons behind his mother's tears when she believed he was not observing, as well as the transformation of the previously lively streets of his urban area into a haunting stillness, are subjects of inquiry. His only awareness was the sensations of hunger and the penetrating cold that seemed to permeate his entire being. The topic of discussion is the contrasting nature of factories, which can either serve as sources of hope or despair. In Detroit, automobile factories were rapidly converted into facilities for the production of military equipment, serving the purpose of supporting the nation's defense efforts. Rosa, whose husband was serving in the Pacific, joined the war production effort by wearing overalls, thus playing a crucial role. They constructed tanks, aircraft, and weaponry, with each rivet serving as a symbol of their determination. Evacuation narratives. During the Blitz, the rural areas of England provided a safe haven for urban children seeking refuge. Farmhouses and cottages provided refuge for children separated from their families. For many individuals, this environment was unfamiliar compared to the fast-paced urban lifestyle they were accustomed to. The exchange from the noise of bombers to the melodies of morning birds occurred, yet the feeling of separation remained a persistent presence. The phenomenon of individuals being confined within their own country can be referred to as prisoners in their own land. After the Pearl Harbor attack, Japanese Americans, including Hiroshi and his family, were forcibly relocated to internment camps in the United States. Hiroshi encountered suspicion and prejudice from fellow countrymen, despite his son's service in the highly decorated 442nd Regimental Combat Team during World War II. The concept of rationing in daily life. Ration cards became a common aspect of daily life in both London and Berlin. Sugar, meat, and fuel were in short supply. Families exhibited resourcefulness by effectively utilizing limited resources to provide sustenance for all members. During this time period, a bar of chocolate or a fresh loaf of bread held significance beyond mere sustenance. It represented a luxury and served as a reminder of more prosperous days. Air raid stories refer to narratives or accounts that recount experiences and events related to air raids. These stories typically involve individuals who have witnessed or been directly affected by air raids, which are. Air raid sirens were widely feared in cities throughout Europe. Families sought refuge in basements, converting them into impromptu shelters where they sought solace while enduring aerial bombardments. In this context, amidst darkness and the intermittent sounds of explosions, humanity was exposed in its most vulnerable state. In conclusion, it can be stated that war has wide-ranging effects that extend beyond the combatants to impact the lives and emotions of those who remain at home. The stories from the domestic front serve as poignant reminders of the human toll of warfare. The authors emphasize that the victims of war extend beyond combatants to include individuals who anxiously await, maintain optimism, and persevere amidst the turmoil. 20. The Resistance, Shadows, and Saboteurs. Amidst the darkness of war that engulfed Europe, a glimmer of hope and resistance emerged from obscurity. Resistance against tyranny was not limited to the armies on the front lines, as individuals in occupied territories also organized covert networks to challenge the oppressor. The resistance refers to a clandestine world of operations, sabotage, and intelligence, in which ordinary citizens become heroic figures. The origins of the underground can be traced back to the mid-19th century in London, England. The emergence of the Axis powers resulted in the extensive occupation of large portions of Europe. Countries such as France, Norway, Poland, and the Soviet territories experienced significant oppression. However, the oppression gave rise to a determination to oppose it. The resistance was not a singular cohesive entity, but rather an intricate network of diverse groups, each with distinct objectives and strategies, yet united by a shared adversary. Sabotage actions. The main goal of numerous resistance groups was to engage in acts of sabotage. The Maquis in France disrupted German supply trains by derailing them. In Norway, Operation Gunnerside saboteurs specifically targeted heavy water plants in order to hinder the nuclear ambitions of the Nazis. Factories catering to the Axis powers, communication lines, and transportation routes were all subjected to targeting. The topic of espionage and intelligence is of great significance. Information wielded significant power. Resistance networks, such as the Dutch Ordedienst and the Polish Home Army, clandestinely collected information on enemy activities, including troop movements, operations, and fortifications, which they then transmitted to the Allied forces. This information frequently played a crucial role by alerting the Allies to imminent attacks or supplying vital details for forthcoming operations. Jews, Romani people, and other persecuted groups were subjected to extermination. The resistance played a crucial role in preserving numerous lives. The Comet Line, a network operating in Belgium and France, facilitated the escape of Allied airmen and Jews from occupied territories, providing guidance and ensuring their safety. Resistance carried significant dangers. Capture typically resulted in severe consequences such as torture, execution, or deportation to concentration camps. However, the resistance grew in numbers as individuals were motivated by a shared longing for liberty and a determination to resist oppression. Prominent individuals and heroic figures. Jean Moulin was a symbol of the French resistance. He brought together different factions and united them under the Conseil National de la Résistance. Hannie Schaft, commonly referred to as the girl with the red hair, was a Dutch resistance fighter who actively engaged in sabotaging German operations and providing assistance to Jews. Max Manus was a notable Norwegian resistance fighter who gained recognition for his audacious acts of sabotage targeting German supply vessels. Resistance's legacy. Following the conclusion of the war, the valiant individuals of the resistance emerged from obscurity. Their actions, however, received mixed reviews. In numerous areas, the politics that followed the war resulted in a re-evaluation of individuals' roles. This led to the glorification of certain resistance fighters as heroes, while others encountered scrutiny, suspicion, or even persecution. Over time, the significance of the resistance in opposing the Axis powers, gathering valuable information, and maintaining hope became increasingly evident. Museums, monuments, and films were established as a means of commemorating the sacrifices and valor of individuals. In conclusion, it can be stated that the resistance exemplifies the unwavering determination of the human spirit. Even during the most challenging periods, when the overwhelming forces of war and occupation appeared unbeatable, ordinary individuals demonstrated resistance. The world they inhabited was characterized by shadows, encrypted communications, and covert activities, serving as evidence that even the most formidable tyranny will inevitably encounter resistance from those it attempts to subjugate. 21. Unsung heroes, medics, nurses, and caretakers. Within the expansive context of warfare, amidst the resounding sounds of gunfire and the narratives of courageous soldiers, there are unsung heroes whose accounts frequently go unnoticed. Instead of engaging in combat using weapons, they employ bandages, medicine, and compassion as their tools. The individuals referred to as medics, nurses, and caretakers are often overlooked, yet they play a crucial role in the critical juncture between life and death. The role of the battlefield medic. The medic serves as a symbol of hope on the front lines. Amidst the sound of bullets and explosions, they quickly move towards their fallen comrades, providing medical assistance and evacuating the injured. Despite the presence of the Red Cross or Crescent emblem, humanitarian workers are not always protected from danger. However, their commitment remains steadfast. Nurses, the unsung heroes of warfare. Nurses demonstrate unwavering dedication in makeshift hospitals or field medical stations situated behind the front lines. They are responsible for wound cleaning, suturing, medication administration, and providing emotional support. Edith Cavell, a woman who provided aid to numerous soldiers during World War I, exemplifies the courage and selflessness exhibited by nurses in times of war. The challenges encountered by the individuals. Medical personnel, including medics and nurses, faced not only the threat of enemy fire, but also the distressing realities of warfare. They directly observed the consequences of lethal gases during World War I, severe injuries caused by advanced machinery in World War II, and the elusive guerrilla tactics employed in Vietnam. In addition, they faced challenges related to limited resources, the emotional strain of prioritizing patients, and the distress of losing individuals they made great efforts to rescue. Caring for the mental well-being. Not all injuries are readily apparent. Numerous soldiers experience trauma upon their return from war, which was previously referred to as shell shock, but is now acknowledged as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Caretakers such as Dr. Rivers at Craig Lockhart War Hospital endeavored to address the internal wounds of soldiers, pioneering innovative treatments and advocating for a more comprehensive comprehension of the psychological impact of war. In addition to the military conflict, there are other significant factors that should be considered. Medical professionals, including medics, nurses, and caretakers, expanded their responsibilities beyond military operations. They offered assistance to civilian populations affected by war, provided medical care during epidemics worsened by conflict, and contributed to the recovery of entire communities following battles. The legacy. Innovation amidst adversity. War has spurred medical advancements. Plastic surgery techniques made significant advancements during World War I. MASH units in the Korean War brought about a significant transformation in the field of trauma care. Recognition and memorials. Gradually, the unacknowledged efforts of these individuals started to be acknowledged and appreciated. The Vietnam Women's Memorial in Washington, D.C., commemorates the service of numerous women, particularly nurses, who served in Vietnam. In conclusion, it can be stated that, in the context of war narratives, soldiers typically occupy a prominent position, whereas medics, nurses, and caretakers play a crucial but less visible role in sustaining the narrative. Their courageous, compassionate, and inventive actions not only preserve lives, but also imbue a sense of humanity in an otherwise dehumanizing circumstance. Their story is characterized by compassion and hope, rather than conquests or tactical prowess, despite facing despair. This serves as a reminder that even during the most challenging times, there is often a small glimmer of hope, often embodied by an unacknowledged individual who plays a heroic role. 22. Battle of the Bulge, Ardennes brutal winter. The winter of 1944 was harsh in the Ardennes forest, a rugged region spanning Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germany. In addition to the challenges posed by nature's icy grip, this landscape served as the setting for the Battle of the Bulge, a highly intense conflict during World War II. A surprise attack refers to a military tactic where an attacking force launches an unexpected and sudden assault on an enemy target. On December 16, 1944, the German army initiated a large-scale offensive against the Allied forces, taking advantage of the dense fog and snowstorms. The objective of this surprise attack was to seize control of the strategically important port of Antwerp, thereby dividing the Allied armies and compelling them to seek a diplomatic resolution to the conflict in the Western Front. The formation of the Bulge. Surprised by the attack, the American forces were overwhelmed by the German offensive, resulting in a significant bulge in the Allied front lines. Saint-Vith and Bastogne emerged as significant sites of intense combat. In Bastogne, the 101st Airborne Division valiantly defended their position, despite being encircled and outnumbered by German forces. Notably, they defiantly responded with the word, "nuts," when presented with a demand for surrender. The dual nature of nature. The Ardennes winter had a dual impact. The fog and snow initially obscured visibility, which aided the German advance. However, as the offensive continued, the extremely cold weather started to negatively impact both parties involved. Soldiers experienced frostbite, trench foot, and hypothermia. Vehicles experienced immobilization, and the availability of supplies, particularly for the American forces surrounded in Bastogne, reached a critically low level. The tide changes. However, the weather would unexpectedly benefit the Allies. On December 23, favorable weather conditions enabled the Allied air forces to launch their attacks. P-47 Thunderbolts and other aircraft conducted missions targeting German supply lines, troop concentrations, and armored units. Simultaneously, additional ground forces, including the Third Army led by General Patton, initiated a counter-offensive with the objective of providing relief to the encircled military units. The concluding effort. By the end of January 1945, following intense combat and substantial losses on both sides, the German offensive had exhausted its strength. The Allies successfully contained the Bulge and subsequently initiated a counter-offensive, thereby paving the way for the eventual invasion of Germany. Aftermath and legacy. The Battle of the Bulge incurred significant costs. The United States experienced approximately 81,000 casualties, whereas German losses were estimated to exceed 100,000. The battle demonstrated the determination and endurance of the Allied forces, particularly the American soldiers who successfully recovered from the initial surprise attack and recaptured lost territory. In contrast, Germany's actions can be seen as a desperate attempt, depleting valuable resources and manpower that they could not afford to lose during this crucial period. In conclusion, it can be stated that the Battle of the Bulge exemplifies the inherent unpredictability of warfare. In the Ardennes, soldiers from both factions encountered not only enemy attacks but also the unpredictable forces of nature amidst the snowy trees. The Ardennes Battle of 1944, despite its seemingly insignificant name, was a significant and intense conflict characterized by harsh winter conditions, demonstrating the determination, strategic planning, and resilience of those involved. 23. Korea's Forgotten War, Stalemate and Sacrifice. The Korean War, which took place from 1950 to 1953, was a significant event of the Cold War period, although it is often overlooked in comparison to World War II and the Vietnam War. Known as the Forgotten War, the lasting effects of this conflict are still evident today, exemplified by the highly fortified demilitarized zone that divides North and South Korea. The topic of origins. Following World War II, Korea, previously under Japanese control, was partitioned at the 38th parallel, resulting in the establishment of North Korea with Soviet backing and South Korea with U.S. support. Tensions escalated and eventually led to the invasion of South Korea by North Korean forces in June 1950. The concept of control in a pendulum system. The war witnessed significant fluctuations. At the outset, North Korean forces made swift progress, almost succeeding in displacing South Korean and American troops from the peninsula. The tide of the Korean War shifted when General Douglas MacArthur successfully executed a bold amphibious landing at Incheon. This military operation resulted in the recapture of Seoul and the subsequent retreat of the North Korean forces. When United Nations (UN) forces neared the Yalu River, China, concerned about being surrounded, joined the war and pushed the UN forces back south of the 38th parallel. A stalemate occurred at the 38th parallel. The front lines became stable around the 38th parallel by mid-1951. The subsequent period was characterized by a 2-year stalemate, featuring brutal trench warfare reminiscent of the Western Front during World War I. Hills and outposts were frequently captured and recaptured, resulting in significant human casualties, yet yielding minimal strategic advantages. Mutual sacrifice. The war exhibited a striking level of brutality. Civilians were affected by the conflict, as both sides committed atrocities. Prisoners of war, POWs, encountered severe conditions, particularly within the confines of North Korean and Chinese detention facilities. Soldiers experienced significant physical and mental strain due to challenging terrain, harsh weather conditions, and ongoing combat. The situation is an armistice rather than a state of peace. In July 1953, a ceasefire and the establishment of the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, were achieved through lengthy negotiations, culminating in the signing of an armistice at Panmunjom. Nevertheless, a formal peace treaty has not been signed, resulting in the ongoing state of war between North and South Korea. The legacy of the war. The Korean War had significant consequences. The document confirmed the United States' dedication to containing communism, leading to heightened defense expenditures and militarization in the Cold War era. Additionally, it solidified the division of the Korean Peninsula. The war resulted in significant devastation for Koreans. Millions of individuals suffered casualties, including fatalities, injuries, and disappearances, resulting in the fragmentation of families. The peninsula remains divided, making the prospect of reunification distant. In conclusion, it can be stated that the Korean War, despite its relative lack of attention in popular memory, had substantial geopolitical implications and enduring consequences. The sacrifices made by individuals who fought, even in the face of significant challenges, should not be overlooked or diminished. They serve as a poignant reminder of the intricate nature of Cold War dynamics, the human toll of ideological conflicts, and the fine distinction between success and failure. 24. Chemical warfare, gas masks and poison air. The evolution of warfare has witnessed the development of weapons intended not only for lethality, but also for inducing terror. Chemical warfare is a malevolent practice that involves the use of toxic substances to incapacitate, harm, or cause fatalities among enemy combatants and occasionally civilians. The use of gas masks and the fear of toxic air became significant symbols of warfare in the 20th century, specifically in the context of World War I. A dark and gloomy journey. Although chemical weapons were occasionally used in ancient times, it was during World War I that they were extensively employed. Chemical attacks were particularly effective in the trenches due to their static nature and limited mobility. The agents of death refer to individuals or entities that are responsible for causing or facilitating death. Multiple gas types were utilized. Chlorine gas, initially developed by the Germans in 1915, is a pale green cloud that induces choking and respiratory harm. Mustard gas is a highly harmful chemical agent that inflicts severe burns and blistering. It has the ability to persist for extended periods, rendering affected areas uninhabitable. Phosgene is a highly potent chemical compound that has caused numerous fatalities in chemical warfare incidents, surpassing the lethality of chlorine. Defensive measures refer to strategies or actions taken to protect against potential threats or attacks. These measures are implemented to safeguard individuals, organizations, or. Upon the emergence of chemical agents, military forces swiftly endeavored to devise defensive equipment. Gas masks evolved from basic cloth mouthpieces to advanced designs with eye protection and air filters, eventually becoming standard issue. The impact of human activities on the environment. Chemical warfare had a significant psychological impact. The concept of breathing air that could be lethal was extremely frightening. Soldiers experienced both immediate injuries and enduring complications, including respiratory issues, vision impairment, and psychological trauma. The environment also exhibited signs of damage, including barren lands and disrupted ecosystems. The Geneva Protocol. The use of chemical warfare during World War I elicited widespread international condemnation. The Geneva Protocol, signed in 1925, prohibits the use of chemical weapons in warfare. Nevertheless, it had limitations, as it failed to effectively prohibit the production and accumulation of such weapons. Future applications and international initiatives. Chemical weapon use has been observed in subsequent conflicts, such as the Iran-Iraq War and the Syrian Civil War, despite the existence of the protocol. Efforts to reduce the spread and utilization of these weapons persisted through the implementation of the Chemical Weapons Convention in 1993, which sought to achieve their total eradication. In conclusion, it can be stated that Chemical warfare has added a frightening aspect to contemporary warfare, as it involves an anonymous and indiscriminate killer that can transform the fundamental element of life, air, into a weapon. The international community's endeavors to prohibit and eradicate these weapons demonstrate a collective recognition of their inhumane characteristics. Gas masks and the fear of toxic air serve as haunting reminders of the ethical and humanitarian limits that warfare can surpass. 25. Technological terrors, the rise of drones and missiles. Throughout history, each era of warfare has been characterized by a distinctive weapon that has played a pivotal role in shaping its conflicts. Throughout history, the evolution of weaponry has significantly influenced the nature of warfare, ranging from the longbow to the machine gun. In contemporary times, two notable technological advancements that have gained significant prominence are drones and missiles. They have significantly transformed strategy, surveillance, and strike capabilities, while simultaneously giving rise to ethical quandaries. Missiles, an analysis of their extended range. The development of missile technology after World War II significantly altered global politics by enabling the delivery of payloads across long distances in a short amount of time. Ballistic missiles. These missiles are launched into the Earth's atmosphere and follow a trajectory similar to that of a thrown ball, hence their name. Missiles can have short, medium, or intercontinental range. Cruise missiles differ from ballistic missiles in that they maintain a consistent altitude and can be controlled throughout their trajectory. This enhances their accuracy while typically reducing their range. The introduction of nuclear warheads transformed missiles from conventional weapons into instruments of deterrence, significantly reshaping global diplomacy and strategic considerations. Drones, aerial surveillance and combat tools. Unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, also referred to as drones, offer a twofold advantage in contemporary warfare by providing both surveillance and strike capabilities. Reconnaissance drones were initially employed for surveillance purposes, providing real-time intelligence while minimizing the risk to human pilots. Armed drones, such as the MQ-9 Reaper, have the potential to be equipped with missiles, allowing for precise remote strikes. Ethical and tactical considerations. Although drones and missiles offer clear tactical advantages, they also raise numerous concerns. Remote warfare presents both advantages and disadvantages due to its capacity to engage in military operations without endangering one's own troops. Although it reduces casualties, it can also facilitate and potentially increase the frequency of decisions to employ force. Despite advancements in modern technology, incidents of civilian casualties, also known as collateral damage, continue to occur. These occurrences raise ethical and legal concerns regarding the utilization of such technology. The proliferation of technology increases the risk of non-state actors obtaining these weapons or initiating arms races. The remote nature of drone strikes can obscure lines of accountability. When incidents occur, such as errors or accidents involving drones, it is important to determine who bears responsibility. This responsibility can be attributed to various parties involved, including the remote pilot operating the drone, the commanding officers overseeing the operation, and the policymakers who establish the guidelines and regulations governing drone usage. Anticipating the future. The enduring presence of missiles and drones is supported by their strategic advantages, as well as the rapid progress in AI and automation. Like other advancements in warfare, technological leaps raise significant ethical concerns. In conclusion, it can be stated that the proliferation of drones and missiles exemplifies a wider pattern in warfare, characterized by a growing dependence on technological advancements. This transition presents strategic benefits as well as ethical dilemmas. Balancing competing priorities and adhering to international legal frameworks will be a crucial challenge for military leaders and policymakers in the future. 26. Brothers in Arms, stories of loyalty and brotherhood. War has a unique ability to create connections amidst its disorder and devastation. In the midst of combat, camaraderie develops among soldiers in the trenches, pilots in the skies, and sailors on the seas. Brothers in Arms, Stories of Loyalty and Brotherhood explores the narratives of individuals who, connected not by familial ties, but by a common experience, forge an indomitable camaraderie in the midst of combat. The concept of united in adversity refers to the idea of individuals or groups coming together and supporting one another during challenging times. The narrative depicts soldiers of diverse backgrounds, ethnicities, and beliefs uniting towards a shared objective. The distinctions that were once causes of division now serve as threads that contribute to a sense of unity. Amidst challenges and difficulties, a tacit agreement for safeguarding and assistance is established among the individuals. Narratives from the battlefield. During World War I, soldiers in the trenches formed close bonds as they endured difficult conditions, such as mud and violence, and relied on each other for sustenance, camaraderie, and emotional support. The close proximity and common danger led to the formation of strong and enduring bonds, as demonstrated through the exchange of small tokens and written correspondence. The Flight Squadron. Comradeship is fostered among fighter pilots, who establish a distinct fraternity in the skies. The interdependence of pilots for protection against enemy aircraft and the exhilaration of aerial combat fostered strong bonds, which were honored through nightly toasts and shared moments of silence when a comrade was lost. In the dense jungles of Vietnam, it was customary for soldiers to support one another. The soldiers relied on each other for support, whether it was navigating dangerous terrains or finding solace in shared moments. Desert Shield refers to the military operation undertaken by the United States and its allies in response to the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq in 1990. During the Gulf War, coalition forces from multiple nations fought together in the expansive and harsh desert environment. The shared purpose and collective experience of enduring the harshness of the desert fostered a sense of unity among men, leading them to commemorate triumphs and grieve over setbacks as a cohesive group. Loyalty that surpasses the expected obligations. The stories in Brothers in Arms extend beyond mere camaraderie. This study examines acts of self-sacrifice in which soldiers endanger their lives for the sake of their fellow soldiers. These often overlooked and unacknowledged acts of bravery are integral to the narrative of brotherhood. The topic of enduring bonds and post-war reunions is of great significance. The bonds forged in battlefields endure beyond the end of hostilities. Soldiers often maintain these connections, seeking comfort in shared memories and mutual understanding. The book explores reunions, moments of shared silence at memorial sites, and the joy of reminiscing about past acts of bravery and camaraderie. In conclusion, it can be stated that Brothers in Arms, Stories of Loyalty and Brotherhood pays tribute to the often overlooked bonds that are forged amidst the intensity of combat. The ability of the human spirit to find connection, loyalty, and love in the midst of chaos and destruction is remarkable. The stories in this book serve as reminders of the enduring human capacity for connection and the inherent need for a sense of belonging, even in challenging situations. 27. The Ethics of War, Humanity Amidst Chaos. During periods of conflict and turmoil, humanity faces unprecedented challenges as the flames of war intensify and cast a shadow over the skies. The Ethics of War, Humanity Amidst Chaos examines the ethical dilemmas encountered by soldiers, commanders, and nations, exploring the philosophical debate surrounding the notions of morality in the context of warfare. The concept of just war theory. The initial sections of the book examine the just war theory, a doctrine that seeks to establish the moral justification of war and maintain its ethical conduct. The concept is categorized into two primary principles. Jus ad bellum examines the legitimacy of the decision to engage in warfare, specifically considering the criteria of just cause, legitimate authority, and right intention. Jus in bello pertains to the ethical conduct during warfare, emphasizing the principles of proportionality and discrimination between combatants and non-combatants to ensure just and humane actions. The response of humanity to acts of atrocity. Throughout the narrative, readers are exposed to the harsh realities of warfare, including the perpetration of atrocities, the loss of innocent lives, and the lasting damage inflicted upon landscapes. The book explores how soldiers, in the midst of chaos, uphold their humanity and moral principles. It highlights situations where acts of compassion and mercy triumphed over obedience and aggression. The issue of obedience quandary. Much of the discourse centers on the ethical quandary encountered by individuals who comply with orders that are intrinsically unethical. The book examines historical events, including the My Lai massacre in the Vietnam War, where the distinction between duty and morality became unclear, prompting inquiries into responsibility and accountability. The ethical implications of technological advancements. Technological advancements in the modern era have presented novel ethical dilemmas. The utilization of drones, cyber warfare, and autonomous weapon systems prompts inquiries regarding the significance of human life, the accountability of decision-making, and the potential dehumanization of warfare. The effects on civilian populations. The ethical considerations of warfare extend beyond combatants to include the civilians who become unintentional victims of the conflict. The book explores moral responsibilities toward civilian populations, the principles of proportionality and necessity, and the post-conflict consequences such as displacement, reconstruction, and reconciliation. The ethics of war. Humanity amidst chaos also examines the function of international humanitarian law in governing the behavior of armed conflicts. This study explores the Geneva Conventions, their underlying principles, and the difficulties encountered in enforcing them within a dynamic and evolving battlefield context. The topic of post-war justice and reconciliation is of significant importance in the aftermath of armed conflicts. The narrative concludes by examining the notions of justice and reconciliation in the aftermath of a conflict. This paper examines the functions of war crime tribunals, truth and reconciliation commissions, and the ethical duty of reconstructing war-ravaged nations and promoting peace. In conclusion, it can be inferred that the ethics of war. Humanity amidst chaos is a thought-provoking examination of the moral aspects associated with warfare. This text prompts readers to contemplate the intricate nature of ethics during times of conflict, the ability of humanity to endure atrocities, and the ongoing discussion surrounding the preservation of moral principles in the constantly changing context of war. The dilemmas presented in the book are complex and require careful consideration. They are crucial for comprehending the deep influence of war on the human spirit and the moral principles that direct us during times of upheaval. 29. Women on the Frontlines, Breaking Barriers and Glass Ceilings. After the conclusion of the battles and the cessation of gunfire, accounts of bravery, perseverance, and determination surfaced from the trenches, skies, and fields. Women on the Frontlines, Breaking Barriers and Glass Ceilings explores the diverse stories of women who challenged societal norms, overcame obstacles, and made significant contributions to the outcome of historical wars. Challenging conventional gender roles. The narrative initially examines how women, who were initially limited to roles such as nurses, caretakers, and supporters, surpassed societal expectations. The stories encompass various instances of women assuming male identities to participate in the American Civil War, as well as the Russian night witches who courageously flew during World War II, showcasing the resilience and valor of women in challenging circumstances. The topic of discussion is the volatile nature of trenches and skies. Women in the trenches fulfilled various roles, including combat medics who risked their lives to rescue the injured, and snipers who effectively targeted the enemy, causing psychological distress. Female pilots defied gender norms by participating in various aviation activities, such as transporting aircraft, conducting bombing raids, and engaging in aerial combat, challenging the notion that the cockpit was exclusively reserved for men. The topic of resistance and espionage is being discussed. The narrative focuses on women's experiences in resistance movements in occupied Europe during World War II. These women played crucial roles in gathering intelligence and disrupting enemy operations by acting as couriers, saboteurs, and spies, risking their lives in the process. The stories of women such as Virginia Hall and Nancy Wake highlight the boldness and ingenuity of women in the context of warfare. The concept of breaking the glass ceiling refers to the barrier that prevents women and other marginalized groups from advancing to higher positions in the workplace. This barrier is often attributed to various forms of discrimination and bias, such as gender stereotypes. Following World War II, women persisted in their pursuit of acknowledgement and equitable treatment, endeavoring to establish their position within the military. The narrative documents the obstacles encountered by women, their struggles for recognition, and the subsequent shattering of barriers as women are integrated into combat roles and leadership positions within contemporary armed forces. The concepts of inspiration and sacrifice are intertwined and have significant implications in various aspects of human life. The chapters contain stories that depict both triumph and sacrifice. Women experience similar dangers as men during times of war, including suffering from casualties, physical harm, and the psychological impact of warfare. The stories of individuals, often overlooked in favor of larger narratives of warfare and tactics, provide inspiration and demonstrate the resilience of human nature. The contemporary front lines and ongoing struggle. Women today play crucial roles on the front lines, adapting to the evolving nature of warfare. This book explores the persistent pursuit of equality, the obstacles encountered by women in the military, and the remarkable narratives of resilience and achievement. In conclusion, it can be stated that Women on the Front Lines, Overcoming Barriers and Shattering Glass Ceilings is a commemoration of the bravery, resolve, and impact of women in the context of armed conflict. This is a historical exploration of women who challenged societal norms and influenced future generations. The stories in this book serve as a reminder of the enduring strength, resilience, and determination of women, as well as their crucial contribution to shaping the historical narrative of war. 31. The Home Front, the war's impact on civilians. War extends beyond the battlefield, impacting the lives of those on the home front. This chapter examines the complex experiences of civilians during wartime, including their challenges, resilience, and contributions to the war effort. It explores how communities cope with loss, adapt to new circumstances, and contribute to the war. During the onset of the conflict, nations mobilized their populations and converted civilian industries into military production facilities. Both men and women civilians were seen wearing overalls and working in factories to produce essential war materials. The stories of Rosie the Riveter and similar figures worldwide represent the industrial mobilization and changing gender roles of the time. During times of war, civilians experienced a scarcity of resources and implemented rationing measures as a result of resources being redirected towards the front lines. The narrative examines how communities engaged in activities such as cultivating victory gardens, saving scrap metal, and following rationing policies. These actions demonstrate the collective sacrifice and the daily hardships experienced during wartime living. The onset of war resulted in significant numbers of people being evacuated and displaced. The chapter discusses the experiences of children evacuated from London during the Blitz, refugees escaping conflict, and the internment of Japanese Americans. These stories reveal the challenges and uncertainties that many individuals encountered, including disruptions, separations, and uncertainties. Propaganda was utilized by governments to influence public opinion, boost morale, and promote active involvement in the war. Civilians were exposed to messages promoting patriotism, duty, and vigilance through various mediums such as posters, radio broadcasts, and films. These messages aim to foster a sense of unity and purpose during a time of turmoil. The emergence of aerial warfare resulted in civilians being directly affected by air raids and the need for bomb shelters. This chapter examines the experiences of families residing in bomb shelters, the disruptive sounds of air raid sirens during the night, and the consequences of bombings in cities such as London, Warsaw, and Dresden. It effectively portrays the emotions of fear, resilience, and community solidarity in the face of imminent danger. Civilians covertly participated in resistance movements and espionage networks. The narrative highlights the bravery and resourcefulness of individuals such as Sophie Scholl and Oskar Schindler, who endangered their lives to oppose oppression, rescue people, and subvert the adversary internally. War brought news of loss and grief to families worldwide. The chapter examines the emotional experiences of individuals who are left behind after a loss, including their coping strategies, support systems, and the long-term effects of grief on both individuals and communities. After the war, civilians faced the challenging task of rebuilding their lives, cities, and societies. The narrative explores the difficulties of rebuilding after the war, the lasting impact of wartime events, and the shared recollection of strength, selflessness, and optimism that characterized the domestic front. In conclusion, The Home Front, the war's impact on civilians, provides a poignant examination of how individuals persevere in challenging circumstances. It offers insight into the experiences of individuals who demonstrated resilience, courage, and adaptability in the face of wartime challenges, while also highlighting the sacrifices they made. These stories exemplify civilians' unwavering determination to endure, adjust, and make positive contributions, despite the presence of conflict in their lives. 32. Behind enemy lines, spies, informants, and intelligence. During times of war, a covert conflict took place, involving spies and informants who operated in secrecy within enemy territory. Their main objectives were to gather intelligence and influence the outcome of the conflict. Behind Enemy Lines explores the secretive realm of espionage, examining stories of intelligence, courage, and trickery that influenced pivotal wartime events and impacted historical trajectories. The topic of this text is Cloak and Dagger, the Art of Espionage. The chapter commences by introducing the fundamental aspects of espionage, including its principles, methods, and objectives. This work examines tradecraft, cryptography, secrecy, and disguise, which lay the foundation for subsequent covert operations and intelligence-gathering missions. The Cambridge Five, Internal Betrayal. This narrative explores the story of the Cambridge Five, a group of British spies who infiltrated British intelligence during the Cold War. Motivated by ideology, they leaked classified information to the Soviet Union, revealing the significant consequences of internal betrayal on national security. Virginia Hall, the OSS agent with a limp. Virginia Hall's journey as a Special Operations Executive, SOE, and Office of Strategic Services, OSS agent in occupied France, showcases her bravery and resourcefulness. Despite her prosthetic leg, she successfully organized resistance networks, executed sabotage operations, and skillfully evaded capture, leading to her being known as the Limping Lady. Operation Mincemeat, Naval Deception. The chapter provides an account of Operation Mincemeat, a clever British deception plan executed during World War II. The Allies effectively employed misinformation in warfare by strategically placing fabricated documents on a deceased individual and allowing the body to be discovered on a beach, thereby deceiving the Axis powers regarding the invasion of Southern Europe. Richard Miller is identified as the mole within the FBI. The story of Richard Miller, the initial FBI agent apprehended for espionage, reveals the underlying incentives and susceptibilities of spies. The individual's collaboration with the Soviet Union highlights the ongoing struggle between allegiance and treachery within the intelligence community. Garbo, The double agent's role in the success of D-Day. Juan Pujol Garcia, known as Garbo, achieved notable success as a double agent in World War II. Through the dissemination of deceptive information and the creation of fictional espionage networks, he significantly contributed to the diversion of German forces and the ultimate triumph of the D-Day landings. The Mossad, Israel's retaliatory force. This chapter examines the audacious and persistent operations conducted by Mossad, the intelligence agency of Israel. Mossad's operations, such as the apprehension of Adolf Eichmann and the pursuit of Black September terrorists, demonstrate the extensive and efficient capabilities of intelligence agencies in countering security risks. Cyber espionage is a significant aspect of modern warfare, taking place in the digital realm. In the era of digitalization, the domain of espionage has extended to include cyberspace. This chapter examines the emergence of cyber espionage, network infiltration, and the theft of sensitive information. It emphasizes the evolving challenges and implications of intelligence warfare in the contemporary era. In conclusion, Behind Enemy Lines, Spies, Informants, and Intelligence provides an insightful exploration of the covert world of espionage, revealing the clandestine realm where classified information is exchanged and significant outcomes are determined. The stories in this book illustrate the intricate challenges, dangers, and ethical dilemmas encountered by individuals who work covertly to uncover truth and acquire knowledge in service of their countries and principles. Espionage, characterized by its secrecy and deceptive tactics, remains a crucial aspect of warfare, significantly influencing strategies, outcomes, and narratives of conflicts. 33. The Road to Tokyo, Pacific Campaign Strategies. The Road to Tokyo explores the complex strategies, battles, and decisions made by the Allies in their determined effort to defeat Imperial Japan in the Pacific. This chapter analyzes the comprehensive campaign in the Pacific theater, encompassing the geopolitical context, military advancements, and the resilience of individuals that shaped the road to triumph. After the unexpected assault on Pearl Harbor, the Allied force, displaying unity and determination, embarked on a journey through the Pacific region. This section examines the geopolitical imperatives, strategic objectives, and initial challenges that influenced the early stages of the Pacific War. Island hopping has emerged as a strategic approach. The Allies implemented the island hopping strategy during World War II, focusing on capturing strategically significant Pacific islands while bypassing others due to Japan's strong presence in the region. The objective of this approach was to advance the Allied forces towards Japan, disrupt Japanese supply routes, and establish air attack bases on the Japanese mainland. The Battle of Midway marked a crucial shift in the Pacific War, as the United States achieved a decisive victory over the Imperial Japanese Navy. This section emphasizes the importance of intelligence, tactics, and valor demonstrated during this crucial naval battle, which resulted in a turning point in favor of the Allies. The chapter explores the challenging and intense jungle warfare that took place in Guadalcanal and New Guinea. The Allied forces encountered various obstacles, including harsh climate, difficult terrain, and intense combat, which demonstrated the need for adaptability in order to achieve victory in hostile environments. The Allies utilized the strategy of leapfrogging during the island hopping campaign, which involved bypassing heavily fortified Japanese positions in order to target more vulnerable areas. Submarine warfare significantly contributed to the disruption of Japanese supply lines and the establishment of Allied control in the Pacific waters. The capture of the Mariana and Palau Islands was crucial for the Allies, as it provided airfields for the deployment of B-29 Superfortress bombers. These islands served as a base for strategic bombing missions targeting the Japanese mainland, intensifying the pressure on Japan and bringing the war in closer proximity to its borders. The battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa were highly intense and violent conflicts during the Pacific War. These islands played a crucial role in the initiation of the ultimate offensive against Japan. This chapter analyzes the significant battles that occurred towards the end of the war, focusing on the intense resistance, the substantial number of casualties, and the strategic significance of these engagements. The Pacific Campaign concluded with the unprecedented utilization of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This section examines the decision-making process, the devastating consequences, and the ethical considerations associated with the utilization of nuclear weapons, which ultimately resulted in Japan's surrender and the conclusion of World War II. In conclusion, The Road to Tokyo provides a thorough understanding of the challenging and strategic voyage across the Pacific. This text highlights the various strategies, bravery of the soldiers, and innovations that led to the defeat of Imperial Japan. The chapter discusses the sacrifices, lessons, and lasting impact of the Pacific Campaign on the geopolitical landscape and collective memory. 34. Paratroopers and airborne assaults, taking the skies. Taking the skies vividly portrays the role of paratroopers and airborne assaults, representing a novel aspect of warfare that emerged in World War II. This chapter explores the origins, developments, daring operations, and bravery of airborne forces that utilized aerial descent to significantly impact the outcome of battles. The origin and training of airborne forces. The chapter begins by examining the origins of the airborne concept and the reasons for using the sky as a battlefield. This sheds light on the intensive training, tactical development, and challenges encountered by the initial cohort of paratroopers, thereby establishing the groundwork for their subsequent deployment in combat. This article explores Operation Colossus, the inaugural airborne operation during World War II. It focuses on the audacious British attack on an Italian aqueduct. This section analyzes the lessons learned, operational challenges, and demonstrated valor, providing a foundation for future airborne operations. The Normandy Drop, a significant airborne operation during D-Day, focuses on the paratrooper drop on Normandy. This chapter examines the careful planning, execution, and disorder involved in landing in enemy territory. It emphasizes the strategic significance and difficulties associated with coordinating a large-scale airborne assault. Operation Market Garden was a military operation with the objective of quickly ending the war by capturing strategic bridges in the Netherlands. This section examines the complexities, miscalculations, and intense combat that defined this operation, while analyzing the factors that contributed to its ultimate failure. The 101st Airborne Division played a crucial role in defending Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge. The chapter highlights the ability of the airborne forces to endure and overcome challenging winter conditions, emphasizing their adaptability and determination in the face of adversity. The Los Baños Raid, Airborne Operations in the Pacific. The narrative highlights a rescue mission carried out by paratroopers in the Pacific Theater, specifically at the Los Baños internment camp in the Philippines, with the aim of liberating prisoners of war. This operation demonstrates the precision, surprise, and humanitarian elements of airborne missions. After World War II, airborne forces underwent further development to accommodate advancements in technology and shifts in the nature of warfare. This section examines the advancements in parachute design, aircraft capabilities, and the incorporation of airborne units in contemporary military strategies, analyzing their significance in conflicts like the Korean and Vietnam Wars. The final section discusses the lasting impact of airborne forces. This event commemorates the bravery, unity, and determination of the Sky Soldiers who fearlessly embarked on a mission fraught with risks and uncertainties, ultimately making a lasting impact on military history. In conclusion, Paratroopers and Airborne Assaults, Taking the Skies, provides a comprehensive and in-depth exploration of the history and significance of airborne warfare. The narratives of courageous descents, resilient defenses, and bold incursions epitomize the fundamental characteristics of airborne units, namely bravery, ingenuity, and camaraderie. This chapter acknowledges the courageous individuals who descended from the skies, influencing the course of battles and representing a distinct and inspiring aspect of military history. 35. The Final Days, From Yalta to Hiroshima. The Final Days, From Yalta to Hiroshima, provides a comprehensive account of the concluding chapter of World War II. It explores the complex web of political alliances, military strategies, and the significant human toll, ultimately resulting in the defeat of the Axis powers and the establishment of a new global order. The chapter focuses on the Yalta Conference, during which the leaders of the Allies, namely Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, gathered to discuss the reorganization of Europe after the war. This study examines the negotiations, agreements, and underlying distrust that laid the foundation for the Cold War. The focus of the narrative shifts to the Pacific Theater, specifically highlighting the intense Battle of Iwo Jima. The film depicts the challenging circumstances, strong Japanese resistance, and the symbolic act of raising the American flag, highlighting the strategic significance of the island in preparation for the future invasion of Japan. The documentary The Fall of Berlin, Endgame in Europe, shifts its attention to the European theater, providing a detailed account of the fierce battles and the ultimate capture of Berlin. This depiction showcases the German defense's desperation, the advancing Allied forces, and Adolf Hitler's downfall, signifying the impending collapse of Nazi Germany. V-Day, also known as Victory in Europe, is commemorated as a momentous occasion marked by the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany. It is a day that evokes both jubilation and contemplation. This study analyzes the responses of both the winners and losers, the liberation of concentration camps, and the initial stages of reconstructing war-ravaged Europe. The Potsdam Conference and the emergence of a new order. After V-Day, the focus shifts to the Potsdam Conference, during which Truman, Churchill, and Stalin discussed the governance of Germany and addressed various post-war issues in Europe and Asia. This analysis focuses on the terms of Japan's surrender and the divisions among the Allies, emphasizing the changing geopolitical situation. The chapter examines the discussions regarding the utilization of atomic bombs during the ongoing Pacific War. This analysis explores the ethical, military, and political factors, as well as dissenting opinions, that influence the decision to deploy a previously unprecedented force. The narrative reaches its climax with a distressing description of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The text discusses the immediate and long-term consequences of a significant event, as well as its profound influence on global ethics, human nature, and the accountability associated with possessing such immense destructive capabilities. V-Day and the Japanese surrender, concluding the chapter. The official conclusion of World War II occurred with Japan's surrender on the USS Missouri. This chapter discusses the emotions surrounding V-Day, the difficulties faced during the occupation, and the initial steps taken towards Japan's reconstruction and reconciliation. In conclusion, The Final Days, From Yalta to Hiroshima, vividly portrays the crucial events, intricate relationships, and profound contemplations that define the concluding period of World War II. The text prompts readers to reflect on the profound impact, the insights gained, and the lasting influence of a conflict that transformed countries, communities, and the course of world history. 1. The birth of modern warfare. The beginning of the 20th century marked a significant transformation in the mechanics, strategy, and consequences of warfare. This significant period, commonly recognized as the emergence of modern warfare, witnessed the incorporation of groundbreaking technology and strategies that established a standard for future conflicts. Wars have evolved from being fought with swords and cavalry charges to becoming complex displays of machinery, firepower, and industrial strength. The evolution of artillery refers to the historical development and progression of artillery weapons and technology over time. In the pre-20th century era, artillery predominantly consisted of cannons characterized by their unwieldiness and restricted range. Typically, these war tools remained stationary during battles, while the movements of infantry and cavalry complemented their barrage. With technological advancements, artillery has transformed into rapid-firing guns that possess enhanced accuracy and destructive potential. The German Krupp gun, known for its high firing speed and maneuverability, served as a prime example of this shift. This evolutionary development enabled armies to engage in long-range bombardment, significantly changing the dynamics of warfare. Infantry units must now take into account the destructive capabilities of concealed artillery before advancing. Machine guns are a type of firearm that are capable of firing a continuous stream of bullets at a rapid rate. They have been widely used in military operations and have had a significant impact on the nature of warfare. This essay. The Maxim gun, developed in the late 1800s, was an early example of a recoil-operated machine gun. The introduction of this technology significantly altered infantry engagements in the theater of war. Trench warfare in World War I was primarily a response to the devastating effectiveness of machine guns. A small group of individuals operating a single machine gun has the capability to effectively neutralize entire advancing platoons. This led to a change in offensive strategies employed by armies, requiring increased complexity in planning and coordination. The inception of military aviation. The skies, previously unaffected by conflict, gained significant importance in the early 20th century. The Wright brothers' 1903 flight, while not military in nature, laid the foundation for the development of aviation in warfare. Reconnaissance aircraft played a vital role in gathering essential information on enemy activities at the onset of World War I. Initially, the planes were unarmed. However, they were soon equipped with machine guns, which resulted in the emergence of aerial dogfights. The introduction of planes in warfare brought about a new dimension that significantly increased the complexity of strategic planning. Chemical warfare, a historical perspective. The use of chemical weapons marked a somber beginning to contemporary warfare. Soldiers in the trenches were exposed to various toxic substances, including chlorine and mustard gas. The fear caused by these imperceptible assailants was profound. Gas masks became indispensable equipment for military personnel, prompting the global community to grapple with the ethical quandaries arising from the use of these cruel tactics in warfare. These weapons were prohibited in warfare through international conventions following World War I, due to their widespread condemnation. The emergence of tank warfare. Tanks, which were introduced during World War I, are heavily armed armored vehicles designed to navigate challenging terrains. The British Mark I, developed in 1916, aimed to resolve the impasse of trench warfare. Their introduction revolutionized ground combat by providing infantry with enhanced protection during advances and posing substantial challenges to enemy defenses. Effects on civilian life and infrastructure. Modern warfare has brought about a change in the way wars affect civilian populations. Cities and towns, located at a considerable distance from the front lines, became vulnerable targets due to the enhanced firepower and extended range of weapons. The bombings of London during World War I and the Blitz in World War II highlighted this somber reality. Moreover, the process of industrializing warfare resulted in the increased vulnerability of crucial national assets such as factories, railways, and other infrastructures, which were essential for supporting a nation's military operations. Consequently, this development further complicated the distinction between military personnel and civilian populations. The conflict between nations over the control of resources and the utilization of industrial power. The introduction of machinery and advanced weaponry shifted the dynamics of warfare, expanding the battleground beyond traditional battlefields to include factories, mines, and shipyards. Countries with advanced industrial capabilities had a significant advantage due to their ability to mass-produce weapons ammunition, and other essential resources. The significance of oil as a fuel for military machinery increased significantly, leading to profound changes in global politics and strategies. In summary, the emergence of modern warfare in the 20th century exemplified the ambivalent impact of technological advancements. The advancements mentioned have resulted in innovative solutions across different sectors. However, when applied to warfare, they have caused greater devastation and raised concerns regarding established norms and ethics in combat. During the transition to a new era of conflict, the world faced the challenges posed by a war characterized by expanding boundaries and a significant transformation in the understanding of combat and combatants. 2. The trenches, muddied soles and steel. The arduous terrain of World War I is commonly associated with a single term, trenches. These extensive excavations, spanning hundreds of miles, served as the main defensive measure against the formidable advancements in warfare technology. Trenches held both strategic importance and served as symbols of the soldier's hardship, endurance, and resilience. The anatomy of trench warfare, a concise academic analysis. The trench systems were complex networks that served both defensive and habitation purposes, rather than being simple holes in the ground. The primary combat zone, known as the frontline trench, was fortified with barbed wire entanglements in order to discourage enemy advancements. The support and reserve trenches were located behind the front line and served as accommodations for troops and storage for supplies, providing a means to reinforce or replace soldiers on the front. Dugouts were constructed within the trench walls to offer limited protection against adverse weather conditions and enemy attacks. Communication trenches were constructed to facilitate the movement of messages, soldiers, and supplies between these trenches. The structure was cleverly designed to reduce vulnerability to enemy snipers and artillery. Zigzag patterns were incorporated to hinder the enemy's ability to fire directly along the trench line. Life in the trenches during World War I was characterized by harsh conditions and constant danger. Soldiers endured extreme physical and psychological hardships, including exposure to the elements, lack of sanitation, and the constant threat of enemy attacks. The soldiers in the trenches faced numerous challenges. The close proximity to mortality exerted a continuous psychological burden. Nevertheless, the psychological toll was frequently accompanied by mundane and environmental challenges. Waterlogged trenches, particularly in low-lying areas such as Belgium's Flanders, resulted in a condition referred to as trench foot. This condition was characterized by the decay of the feet due to prolonged exposure to damp conditions. Rats, which fed on the corpses present in the area known as no man's land, exhibited significant growth in size and became persistent nuisances. Lice were widely prevalent and responsible for the transmission of the highly feared trench fever. However, in the midst of this unfortunate situation, a strong sense of camaraderie developed. Soldiers formed strong bonds through shared hardships, which cultivated a sense of camaraderie. Songs, jokes, and letters from home served as a vital source of hope for soldiers, serving as a reminder of a world beyond the challenging and distressing conditions they faced. The article discusses the lethal consequences of the military tactic known as over-the-top charge. The command for a soldier to go over the top was considered highly daunting, as it entailed leaving the protected confines of the trenches and advancing into the perilous expanse known as no man's land. The area between the opposing trenches was frequently laden with mines and scattered with barbed wire. As the soldiers advanced, they encountered a barrage of machine gun fire, artillery shells, and sniper attacks. Casualties frequently incurred significant losses. Trench warfare weapons. Trenches were initially developed as a defensive measure against the formidable firepower of machine guns, but they also spurred advancements in offensive armaments. Trench warfare's stalemate necessitated the development of novel strategies for overcoming fortifications. The bayonet charge, a perilous and frequently lethal maneuver, became a conventional tactic, despite its tendency to result in significant casualties. Grenades emerged as a critical weapon due to their ease of use in targeting enemy trenches. The British introduction of tanks in 1916 provided a potential solution to the stalemate by offering the ability to navigate trenches and offer protection for advancing infantry. German deployment of poison gas during World War I instilled significant fear, leading to its subsequent adoption by the Allies. The clouds carried by the wind posed a lethal threat by inducing suffocation, blindness, and severe burns. This added an element of fear and unpredictability to the already tumultuous battlefield. A permanently damaged landscape. Trench warfare had a significant environmental impact. The previously fertile lands underwent a transformation, resembling lunar landscapes characterized by craters and lacking any vegetation. The devastation caused by the war extended beyond physical destruction. Areas such as the Somme and Verdun became widely associated with mass killings, serving as lasting reminders of the war's futility and widespread devastation. Trench warfare's demise. Throughout the course of the war, there was a notable development in tactics and technologies aimed at resolving the impasse created by the trench warfare. The integration of artillery, infantry tactics, tanks, and air reconnaissance progressively diminished the invulnerability of entrenched positions. During World War II, the effectiveness of static trench systems from World War I became obsolete due to the implementation of blitzkrieg tactics and improved mobility. However, trench-like fortifications were still utilized in certain theaters of the war. In summary, trench warfare, characterized by its vivid imagery of soldiers in muddy conditions and the use of steel weaponry, continues to be a powerful symbol of World War I. The event symbolized the clash between outdated 19th-century strategies and advanced 20th-century weapons, serving as a tragic reminder of the consequences of being ill-equipped to adapt to technological advancements in warfare. The soldiers who experienced the trenches demonstrated remarkable human resilience and determination to survive, despite facing immense challenges. 3. Echoes in the Desert, the Siege of Tobruk. The North African campaign during World War II was characterized by extensive desert terrain, mechanized warfare, and fierce battles for strategic locations. The Siege of Tobruk exemplified the spirit of resistance in the face of overwhelming challenges. The port city of Tobruk holds great significance in wartime history due to the 241-day resistance by Allied forces, mainly consisting of Australian, British, Polish, and Czechoslovakian troops against continuous Axis offensives. Tobruk, an important strategic location. Tobruk, located on Libya's coastline, possessed a strategically significant deepwater port that held crucial importance for both the Allies and the Axis powers. The control of Tobruk was significant as it allowed for dominance over the Mediterranean supply routes and served as a crucial strategic point for advancing into Egypt and the Suez Canal. The inception of the storm. In the beginning of 1941, General Erwin Rommel of Germany led the Afrika Korps in a rapid conquest of extensive territories in North Africa on behalf of the Axis powers. Nevertheless, Tobruk remained steadfast. Under the command of Australian General Leslie Morshead, the garrison of the city displayed unwavering resolve in preventing its capture. The Tobruk perimeter, a showcase of defensive brilliance. Recognizing the strategic significance of Tobruk, the Allies implemented a comprehensive defensive system comprising trenches, bunkers, and minefields. The combination of a large defensive perimeter and the city's natural defenses posed significant risks for any Axis assault. In order to boost morale and foster a sense of unity, Morshead made a well-known statement, asserting that there would be no retreat, thus emphasizing the determination to withstand the siege. Life within the city walls was arduous. The Tobruk garrison faced challenges from frequent artillery bombardments and extreme desert temperatures. Water and food were limited, and there was a constant fear of a large-scale attack. The defenders of Tobruk, known as the Rats of Tobruk, demonstrated a resilient and unwavering determination, despite the term being originally used as an insult by Nazi propagandist Lord Haha. Axis assaults, continual repulsion. Rommel conducted several offensives in his pursuit of capturing the strategically important city of Tobruk. Nevertheless, every attack encountered strong opposition. The defenders' familiarity with the terrain and their determined attitude made every part of Tobruk difficult for the Axis forces to capture, resulting in significant losses for them. During a notable counteroffensive, Allied forces successfully repelled a significant Axis advance, resulting in the prevention of their assault and the capture of a substantial number of enemy soldiers. The resounding impact of Tobruk's resistance. The persistent resistance of Tobruk posed not only a military obstacle for the Axis powers, but also had a profound psychological impact. The legend of the Rats of Tobruk grew with each passing day of the siege. Their resilience served as a symbol of the Allies' determination to resist Axis expansion and provided hope. The concepts of relief and legacy are significant in various contexts. Relief refers to the alleviation or mitigation of suffering, distress, or hardship. It involves providing assistance, support, or. The siege was lifted in December 1941 after a duration of 241 days. The defenders of Tobruk successfully maintained their position until Allied reinforcements were able to regroup and launch a counteroffensive, resulting in the retreat of Rommel's forces. The siege of Tobruk had a lasting impact. The Rats gained national recognition and were particularly revered in Australia for their resolute determination, bravery, and resilience. The siege demonstrated the significance of morale, leadership, and strategy in warfare, illustrating that resolute resistance can triumph even in the face of daunting odds. In summary, the deserts of North Africa, specifically around Tobruk, are known for their echoes that resonate with stories of heroism, strategic maneuvers, and the unwavering human resilience. The siege of Tobruk exemplifies the determination and loyalty of soldiers who valiantly protected a vital outpost in a significant theater of World War II, despite facing overwhelming challenges. Their enduring legacy serves as a source of inspiration and a poignant reminder of the sacrifices and principles associated with war. 4. Heroes of the Eastern Front. The Eastern Front in World War II was characterized by its extensive scope, intense warfare, and significant casualties. This front encompassed a vast geographical area, stretching from Leningrad in the north to the Caucasus in the south, and witnessed significant battles of immense scale. Although the machinery of war was important, it was the unwavering spirit and heroic actions of individuals that made a lasting impact. In this account, we highlight the lesser-known heroes and iconic individuals of the Eastern Front. Vasily Zaitsev is a highly skilled sniper known for his exceptional marksmanship abilities. Vasily Zaitsev, a renowned sniper, achieved legendary status during the Battle of Stalingrad. Zaitsev, operating within the devastated city, is acknowledged for his accomplishment of 225 confirmed kills, which notably includes the elimination of multiple enemy snipers. His tactics and skills significantly contributed to the improvement of morale among Soviet defenders and instilled fear in the German invaders. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, a formidable female sniper. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, another renowned sniper, achieved legendary status due to her remarkable accomplishments. She has achieved a notable position among the most accomplished military snipers in history, with a confirmed kill count of 309. In addition to her exceptional abilities, Pavlichenko emerged as a symbol representing the substantial role women played in the Soviet war effort. Alexander Rodimtsev was a prominent figure in the defense of Stalingrad. The term colonel refers to a military rank that is typically above the rank of major, and the 13th Guards Rifle Division, led by General Alexander Rodimtsev, had a significant impact in the defense of Stalingrad. Rodimtsev's division was deployed in a critical manner to defend strategic positions despite facing significant numerical disadvantages. The division was bestowed with the esteemed title Stalingrad in recognition of their exceptional bravery, a distinction that is not commonly awarded. Zoya Kosmodemyanskaya, an emblem of defiance. Zoya, an 18-year-old Soviet partisan, was captured and subsequently executed by German forces. Prior to her demise, she attained the status of an emblematic figure of opposition, as her courageous and unyielding demeanor in the presence of adversaries served as a source of inspiration for numerous individuals. She was posthumously awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union, making her one of the first women to receive this honor during the war. Nina Onilova, also known as the Machine Gun Girl, is the subject of this discussion. Nina Onilova, a machine gunner in the 25th Rifle Division, gained recognition for her exceptional combat prowess and unwavering determination. During the defense of Odessa and Sevastopol, she successfully neutralized multiple enemy tanks and effectively repelled successive waves of enemy troops. Her courage elevated her to the status of one of the most revered female combatants of the war. Ivan Sidorenko is a sniper instructor. Ivan Sidorenko, a prominent Soviet Union sniper, demonstrated exceptional proficiency with more than 500 confirmed kills and also provided training to aspiring snipers. His contributions to sniper movement and tactics had a lasting impact on the dynamics of the Eastern Front. Konstantin Rokossovsky, known as the Marshal of Victory, was a prominent military figure. Marshal Rokossovsky, a highly skilled strategist, made significant contributions in pivotal battles such as Stalingrad, Kursk, and the final assault on Berlin. Although he experienced political purges prior to the war, his leadership and tactics played a crucial role in shifting the balance of power against the Axis forces. Rosa Shanina, an unrecognized threat. Rosa Shanina, a notable female sniper, achieved a total of 59 confirmed kills throughout her military tenure. In addition to her military accomplishments, her diaries provided a significant understanding of the experiences and thoughts of a young woman during wartime, resulting in a lasting impact on contemporary audiences. In conclusion, it can be stated that the Eastern Front encompassed more than military confrontations. It involved a struggle of determination, ideologies, and morale. Within the context of widespread conflict, certain narratives of courage, selflessness, and perseverance emerged, offering a glimmer of hope and serving as a source of inspiration during the bleakest moments. These heroes, whether recognized or not, exemplified the significant toll on human life during the war and the unwavering resolve to succeed despite overwhelming challenges. The stories, resonating through time, serve as poignant reminders of the sacrifices and unwavering resilience of humanity. 7. Machines over Men, the Dawn of Air Power. The 20th century witnessed substantial technological progress that had a profound impact on the character and execution of warfare. One significant development was the emergence of air power. Battles expanded beyond land and sea to include the sky, introducing distinct rules, tactics, and strategies. This chapter examines the rise of air power and its transformative impact on the dynamics of warfare, as it shifted the balance of power from human agency to technological advancements. The early years of pioneering. Aviation was in its early stages during the early 1900s. Aircraft were typically constructed using delicate materials such as wood and fabric, resulting in limited operational capabilities. Nevertheless, visionaries such as the Wright brothers recognized the potential of aviation beyond its civilian uses. During World War I, the strategic importance of aerial reconnaissance was acknowledged by both sides, resulting in the emergence of military aviation. World War I as a testing ground. The Great War provided a platform for the demonstration of the capabilities of air power. Originally employed for reconnaissance purposes, airplanes quickly transitioned to assume offensive roles. Fighter aircraft were developed to engage in aerial combat and gain dominance over the skies, while bombers were designed to carry out strategic attacks on enemy territory. The aerial battles between the Red Baron, a renowned German pilot, and Allied aviators gained legendary status, underscoring the increasing significance of air supremacy. Tactics and technologies. As aircraft advanced, their tactics also evolved. The advent of synchronized machine guns enabled pilots to engage in forward firing without risking damage to their propellers. Bombing runs, strafing attacks, and aerial duels became common practices. Balloons and zeppelins played a significant role in expanding the capabilities of aerial warfare, serving purposes such as observation and even bombing, thereby increasing the diversity of the aerial battlefield. During the interwar period, there was a significant evolution in military doctrine. During the interwar period, there were discussions and debates among military strategists and aviation pioneers regarding the capabilities and constraints of air power. Prominent military strategists, such as Giulio Douhet of Italy and Hugh Trenchard of Britain, advocated for the use of strategic bombing as a method to undermine an adversary's resolve to continue fighting. They held the belief that air power alone could secure victory in future conflicts, thereby circumventing the protracted and deadly stalemates characteristic of trench warfare. The maturation of air power during World War II. World War II witnessed the complete actualization of the potential of air power. The German Blitzkrieg strategy effectively demonstrated the potency of combined arms warfare by integrating ground assaults with aerial assistance. The Allies conducted strategic bombing campaigns against German and Japanese infrastructure and cities in order to weaken their military capabilities and demoralize their populations. The conflict witnessed the emergence of jet aircraft and the destructive impact of atomic bombs, highlighting the increasing reliance on technology in shaping the outcome of warfare. This paper examines the Cold War era and the concept of deterrence, exploring its significance beyond military combat. During the Cold War, air power assumed a novel role as a means of deterrence. Nuclear-capable bombers and missiles assumed pivotal roles in the strategic doctrines of the United States and the Soviet Union. The concept of mutually assured destruction, MAD, highlighted the potential consequences of large-scale aerial warfare, transforming air power into a means of both war and peace by acting as a deterrent. The role of human factors in a system. Although machines have become increasingly prevalent in the skies, the human factor continues to be essential. Pilots, ground crews, and strategists played crucial roles in maximizing the effectiveness of air power. The effectiveness of aerial campaigns was determined by the skills, courage, and decision-making abilities of individuals involved. In conclusion, it can be stated that the emergence of air power brought about a notable transformation in the character of warfare. The progression of aerial warfare, spanning from reconnaissance biplanes to stealth bombers and drones, has consistently prioritized technological advancements. Nevertheless, maintaining a harmonious equilibrium between human and machine components is crucial in the context of warfare. The narrative of air power encompasses not only technological progress, but also the individuals responsible for designing, commanding, and employing these aircraft to influence historical events. 8. Stalingrad, Steel Against Willpower. The Battle of Stalingrad, which took place from August 23, 1942, to February 2, 1943, is widely recognized as a highly significant and exceptionally violent engagement during World War II. The event was more than a mere confrontation between military forces. It was a momentous encounter involving advanced technology, strategic maneuvers, and unwavering human resolve. The battle involved the German Wehrmacht and the Soviet Red Army, as well as the people of Stalingrad. The result significantly altered the Eastern Front and marked a pivotal moment in the conflict. The significance of the Battle of Stalingrad. Located on the western bank of the Volga River, Stalingrad held significance beyond its association with the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin. The location served as a crucial transportation center and held considerable symbolic importance. Adolf Hitler aimed to capture the city in order to diminish Soviet morale and establish a secure flank for the Wehrmacht's advance towards the Caucasus oil fields. The second phase of Operation Barbarossa, the German onslaught. Following the initial achievements of Operation Barbarossa in 1941, the German military aimed to achieve a decisive victory in 1942. Led by General Friedrich Paulus, the Sixth Army of the Wehrmacht advanced towards Stalingrad with a sense of assurance. The city experienced extensive bombing, resulting in significant destruction. The Defenders, Soviet Resolve, is a book that explores the unwavering determination of the Soviet Union during a specific historical period. The Soviets initially found themselves at a disadvantage in the face of the German offensive. However, their resolve to prevent the city from succumbing remained unwavering. Soldiers, workers, and civilians all contributed to the defense effort. During times of conflict, buildings were transformed into fortresses. Factories maintained their production of T-34 tanks amidst ongoing battles, and civilians actively contributed to the construction of defenses and provision of medical aid. The phenomenon of close-quarters carnage refers to the occurrence of violent incidents in confined spaces. The Stalingrad battle was marked by intense and brutal close-quarters combat rather than large-scale strategic maneuvers. The presence of numerous hiding spots within the city's ruins transformed the confrontation into a perilous game of pursuit and evasion. All streets, buildings, and rooms turned into battlefields. The term Rattenkrieg was coined by German soldiers to describe the intense urban warfare they experienced. The reversal of a situation. Operation Uranus was a military operation conducted by the Soviet Union during World War II. By November 1942, the majority of Stalingrad had been seized by the Germans. The Soviets, led by Generals Georgy Zhukov and Alexander Vasilevsky, initiated Operation Uranus as a counter-offensive against the Romanian and Hungarian units that were positioned on the flanks of the Sixth Army. The military operation achieved success by effectively surrounding the German forces within the confines of Stalingrad. The topic of discussion is the siege and subsequent surrender. The German Sixth Army found themselves in a dire situation due to being trapped in the city and enduring a harsh winter. Hitler's decision to deny retreat was motivated by his belief that Field Marshal Erich von Manstein's forces would successfully break the encirclement. Unfortunately, this relief was not forthcoming. The German forces were gradually weakened by factors such as starvation, cold weather, and persistent Soviet attacks. On February 2, 1943, General Paulus chose to surrender, despite Hitler's directive to fight until the last soldier, resulting in a significant defeat for the Wehrmacht. Title: The Reorientation of Post-War Societies. The defeat and subsequent loss of an entire army on the Eastern Front had a significant impact, not only in terms of military casualties, but also in terms of the psychological effect it had on the overall momentum of the conflict. The Soviet Union initiated a westward advance that ultimately led them to the city of Berlin. The Battle of Stalingrad symbolized the resilience of the Soviet Union and highlighted the consequences of underestimating an adversary's determination. In conclusion, Stalingrad exemplifies the unpredictable nature of warfare, with its juxtaposition of industrial steel and human determination. This serves as a reminder that the determination of individuals to protect their homeland can be more important than technology and tactics. The ruins of Stalingrad exemplify the resilience of the human spirit in dire circumstances. 9. Normandy's Beaches, D-Day's Blood and Sand. June 6, 1944, is a significant date in military history. D-Day, also known as the initiation of Operation Overlord, signified the commencement of the ambitious Allied campaign to invade Nazi-occupied Europe. The Normandy coastline served as the setting where carefully planned strategies encountered the unpredictable nature of warfare, resulting in a display of both bravery and sorrow on its beaches. This chapter explores the significant events that took place on the beaches of Normandy during D-Day, highlighting their magnitude and importance. Strategic imperative. In 1944, the Allies were eager to establish a second front in Europe. Establishing a Western front was crucial in order to exert pressure on the Nazi war machine, as the Soviets advanced persistently from the east. Normandy was selected due to its strategic positioning, appropriate landing beaches, and the advantage of surprise, as the Germans anticipated a landing in the vicinity of Pas-de-Calais. The role of planning and deception. The preparations for D-Day were extensive and encompassed complex logistical, intelligence, and deception operations. Operation Fortitude deceived the German forces by creating the impression that the primary invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais. The operation involved the use of decoy tanks, simulated radio communications, and undercover operatives, all contributing to the overall deception. The beaches, 5 codenames. The Allies selected 5 specific beaches within a 50-mile area along the Normandy coast as their targets. Utah and Omaha are 2 locations where American forces were deployed. The British forces were equipped with golden swords. Juno Beach was the designated landing area for Canadian forces during the Allied invasion of Normandy in World War II. Each beach posed distinct challenges, ranging from the formidable defenses encountered at Omaha to the urbanized regions surrounding Juno. Air and sea bombardment refers to the military strategy of using aerial and naval forces to attack enemy targets. Prior to the primary landing, Allied bombers conducted airstrikes on German coastal defenses, while battleships and cruisers engaged in artillery bombardment of the beaches. Nevertheless, the bombardment proved to be less successful than expected, particularly at Omaha, resulting in a significant number of German fortifications remaining undamaged. Landings and initial chaos refer to the events that occur during the initial stages of a military operation, particularly during the landing phase. This phase involves the deployment of troops and equipment onto a designated area, often a hostile territory. On the morning of June 6, a large number of landing craft approached the beaches, discharging infantry amidst heavy German gunfire. American troops at Omaha Beach encountered numerous challenges, including obstacles, mines, and well-fortified German positions. Despite significant losses, certain military units managed to break through the German defenses due to determination and resourceful leadership. Canadian forces encountered strong opposition at Juno Beach, yet they achieved notable progress inland compared to other forces involved in the D-Day operation. Golden Sword experienced fierce urban warfare, particularly in locations such as Arromanches and Ouistreham. The role of paratroopers in inland operations. Airborne operations were conducted to provide support for the beach landings. The objective of the American 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions was to secure the western flank and strategically important causeways located behind Utah. The British 6th Airborne Division was tasked with capturing the Pegasus Bridge and other objectives on the eastern flank. Despite their scattered and occasionally inaccurate actions, the paratroopers managed to create confusion within the German ranks and successfully achieved important objectives. The concepts of consolidation and breakout refer to patterns observed in financial markets. Consolidation refers to a period of relatively stable prices within a defined range, where the market is neither trending upwards. By the end of the day, the Allies successfully established a presence on all 5 beaches, albeit with differing degrees of advancement. The period following D-Day encompassed the establishment of connections between the beachheads, repelling German counterattacks, and preparing for a breakthrough from the Normandy region. The human toll. D-Day resulted in a triumph, albeit with significant casualties. Approximately 10,000 Allied soldiers suffered casualties, including fatalities, injuries, or being unaccounted for during the conflict. The losses suffered by Germany were significant as well. The battle left a lasting impact on the beaches and hinterlands, where tales of sacrifice, heroism, and loss became deeply ingrained in the fabric of the region. In conclusion, it can be stated that the decision to conduct the landings at Normandy's beaches was a necessary risk undertaken by the Allies. With careful strategizing, cunning tactics, and the unwavering determination of the troops, they successfully established a strategic position that ultimately resulted in the liberation of Western Europe. D-Day serves as a reminder of the efforts nations undertake to combat tyranny and the sacrifices needed to attain freedom. 10. The Pacific Theater: Islands, Atolls, and Empires. The Pacific Ocean played a unique role as a battleground during World War II. The Pacific Theater was a region where naval power, air superiority, and infantry determination converged, unfolding across a series of islands and atolls. This chapter explores the intense conflict between the Allies, with a focus on the United States and the Empire of Japan, providing a detailed depiction of warfare in the expansive maritime domain. A clash between two titans. In the early 1940s, the United States and the Empire of Japan were engaged in a competition for influence in the Pacific region. Japan's territorial conquests in Asia, such as Manchuria and Southeast Asia, brought it into conflict with American interests. Pearl Harbor: the initial attack. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, propelled the United States into the war and sparked the Pacific conflict. Following substantial damage to a significant portion of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, Japan took advantage of the situation and swiftly expanded its empire across the region. Island hopping is a strategic necessity. Due to the extensive distances and multitude of islands in the Pacific region, the Allies implemented a strategic approach known as island hopping. The military strategy employed was to selectively target strategically significant Japanese-held islands, utilizing them as bases to gradually advance towards the Japanese mainland. Each island served as a potential launching point for subsequent operations. This essay will discuss major battles and turning points in history. The Battle of Midway took place in June 1942. Shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States Navy achieved a significant triumph in the Battle of Midway. This naval engagement effectively halted the expansionist efforts of Japan and resulted in a significant shift in the balance of power in the Pacific region. The Guadalcanal Campaign, which took place from 1942 to 1943, marked a crucial land battle where intense combat ensued between the United States Marines and the Army. Their objective was to seize and maintain control over a strategically important airfield. The Allied victory represented a significant turning point. The Battle of Iwo Jima, which took place in February 1945, was one of the most violent conflicts of the war, despite being fought on a small volcanic island. The act of raising the U.S. flag on Mount Suribachi symbolized the sacrifices that were made. The Battle of Okinawa, which took place from April to June 1945, was the final major battle preceding a possible invasion of mainland Japan. It resulted in significant casualties for both sides and provided a glimpse into the intensity that an invasion could entail. The topic of naval dominance and aerial warfare is of great significance in military strategy and international relations. The Pacific War primarily involved naval operations. Large naval armadas, consisting of aircraft carriers, battleships, and submarines, engaged in monumental battles. Aerial warfare, particularly the use of aircraft carrier-based planes, significantly influenced the outcome of numerous battles. The role of human factors in combat and cultural dynamics. The Pacific Theater exhibited distinct cultural contrasts. American military personnel faced not only a determined adversary, but also unfamiliar environments, weather conditions, and indigenous communities. The human experience in the Pacific Theater was shaped by the harshness of combat and the moments of camaraderie with Pacific Islanders. The atomic endgame refers to the final stage of the atomic age, characterized by the development and proliferation of nuclear weapons. The Pacific War reached its climax with the deployment of 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The destructive attacks, along with the Soviet Union's involvement in the war against Japan, led to the Japanese surrender and the subsequent end of the conflict. The Pacific Theater exemplified the intricate nature of warfare spanning islands and oceans. The Pacific War presented distinct difficulties due to factors such as geographical distance, harsh climate conditions, and strong opposition. However, the Allies' tenacity and strategic acumen ultimately led to the downfall of a formidable empire. The Pacific conflict highlighted the extent to which nations would strive to achieve their objectives, contrasting with the tranquil beauty of the oceanic setting. 13. Siege of Leningrad, Hunger, Cold, and Resistance. The Siege of Leningrad during World War II stands out as a significant event characterized by immense human suffering and resilience. St. Petersburg endured a harsh blockade by German and Finnish forces for a duration of 872 days. Despite the harsh weather conditions and severe food shortages, the residents of Leningrad demonstrated a remarkable resilience and determination that would have a lasting impact on historical records. The significance of strategic prizes in achieving organizational objectives. Leningrad, a prominent port and industrial center, held significant cultural importance as the heart of the Soviet Union, boasting a remarkable history and architectural marvels. Capturing Leningrad was strategically and symbolically significant for Hitler. The concept of encirclement and isolation refers to the strategic approach of surrounding and cutting off an opponent or target from external support or resources. In September 1941, German forces successfully encircled Leningrad, thereby severing all terrestrial access points to the city. The siege commenced. The Soviet Union, expecting a brief blockade, was ill-equipped for the extended period of isolation that ensued. The impact of winter and starvation. The winter of 1941-42 was exceptionally severe. As temperatures dropped, the food reserves in Leningrad decreased quickly. The bread rations for workers were reduced to 125 grams per day, while non-workers received even smaller portions. Malnutrition resulted in extensive famine, leading to a daily loss of thousands of lives. Desperation resulted in instances of cannibalism. The concepts of survival and solidarity are closely intertwined. In the midst of a challenging situation, narratives of bravery and unity surfaced. Individuals collaborated to establish communal kitchens, shared limited resources, and exerted significant effort to sustain crucial services. Families remained vigilant near their stoves to prevent them from extinguishing, thereby ensuring a minimum level of warmth. The Ice Road is a film that revolves around the challenges faced by a group of individuals as they transport critical equipment across treacherous frozen terrain. Lake Ladoga, located east of Leningrad, provided a ray of hope. In winter, the frozen surface of the area gained renown as the Road of Life. Despite the dangers posed by frequent bombardments and the risk of ice cracking, this road facilitated the limited arrival of supplies and the departure of evacuees from the besieged city. Resistance and defiance are two forms of opposition that individuals or groups employ in response to perceived injustices or oppressive systems. Despite the adverse conditions of hunger and cold, the defenses of Leningrad remained steadfast. The city's factories were converted to support the war effort by producing ammunition and equipment. Despite frequent artillery bombardments, the spirit of resistance remained unwavering. Despite the challenging circumstances, the Leningrad Radio Orchestra demonstrated their defiance by performing Dmitri Shostakovich's Seventh Symphony in August 1942, amidst the ruins. The act of ending a siege. Multiple unsuccessful attempts were made to break the siege until January 1943, when the Soviets successfully established a limited land corridor. The blockade persisted until January 27, 1944, when Soviet forces successfully repelled the German troops, thereby concluding the longest and most destructive siege in recorded history. The consequences or outcomes of an event or situation. The human toll of the siege of Leningrad is significant. The estimated civilian death toll exceeds 1 million, primarily attributed to starvation. Despite significant damage to the city's architectural heritage, the resilience of its inhabitants remained unwavering. In conclusion, it can be inferred that the information provided supports the notion that the user's text should. The Siege of Leningrad is a poignant reminder of the atrocities of war and the resilient nature of humanity. In the face of immense adversity, the inhabitants of Leningrad demonstrated remarkable bravery, endurance, and an unwavering determination to persevere. Their experience serves as a poignant reminder of human resilience and the transformative influence of community and hope. 17. Frozen Hell, the Winter War of Finland. During the initial stages of World War II, a relatively obscure yet highly contested conflict emerged in the frigid territories of Northern Europe. The Winter War was a conflict in which Finland, a small Nordic country, defied the odds against the much larger Soviet Union. The severe cold weather, along with strong Finnish resistance, transformed the snow-covered forests and lakes into an inhospitable environment for the invading Red Army. The background information is as follows. The Winter War commenced on November 30, 1939, when the Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, demanded territorial concessions from Finland. The Soviet Union's demands were motivated by strategic considerations, specifically the desire to protect Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg, from potential risks. Following the breakdown of diplomatic negotiations, the USSR initiated a military invasion with the anticipation of achieving a swift triumph. The severe cold weather. The timing of the war held significance. Winter in Finland is known for its severe conditions, characterized by temperatures that drop significantly below freezing. The Soviet forces, despite their familiarity with cold weather, were not adequately prepared for the severe Finnish winter, which the Finnish troops exploited to their benefit. Mahti tactics refer to a military strategy that involves encircling and isolating an enemy force in order to weaken and ultimately defeat them. To counter the adversary's superior numerical strength and weaponry, the Finns resorted to guerrilla warfare tactics. Leveraging their understanding of the local topography, they employed hit-and-run strategies, disrupted logistical routes, and effectively isolated Soviet divisions. The Finnish military would strategically surround and isolate Soviet units, resulting in the formation of Mahtis, which translates to bundles in Finnish. Subsequently, the isolated units were subjected to individual attacks, leading to significant casualties among the Soviet forces. The concept of sisu. The Finnish resistance was supported by the concept of sisu, which encompasses determination, resilience, and hardiness. The spirit of bravery and unit cohesion was exemplified through accounts of individual soldiers who, despite being greatly outnumbered, successfully resisted the Soviet advances. Prominent military engagements. The Battle of Suomussalmi demonstrated the efficacy of Finnish Mahti tactics, as a smaller Finnish force successfully encircled and annihilated 2 Soviet divisions. The Battle of Tolvajärvi marked a significant Finnish triumph during the war, as they successfully defended against a larger Soviet force. The topic of foreign support and volunteers is of great significance. Although Finland fought the Winter War mostly on its own, it did gain international attention. Volunteers from various countries, including Sweden, Denmark, and Australia, provided assistance to the Finns. Despite their small numbers, they represented the wider international support for the Finnish cause. The Moscow Peace Treaty refers to the agreement signed in Moscow, Russia, which aimed to establish peace between Finland and the Soviet Union. The duration of the war was 105 days. In March 1940, due to the urgent security situation in Leningrad and the unexpectedly strong resistance from Finland, the Soviet leadership pursued a resolution to the conflict. The Moscow Peace Treaty resulted in Finland relinquishing 11% of its land to the Soviet Union, which included the city of Viipuri, Viborg. Despite the significant difference in military power and resources, Finland's ability to maintain its independence and effectively protect the majority of its territories demonstrates its resilience and strategic prowess. The Winter War's legacy. The Winter War had significant implications despite its brevity. The USSR's experience revealed notable deficiencies in the leadership, tactics, and equipment of the Red Army. These lessons led to important reforms that played a crucial role in the subsequent conflict with Nazi Germany. The war in Finland came to represent a significant source of national pride and unity. The event demonstrated the resilience, resolve, and capacity of the Finnish people to withstand a significantly more powerful adversary. In conclusion, it can be stated that the Winter War is a significant event in military history, demonstrating that determination, strategy, and understanding of the terrain can be effective in balancing the odds, even against a stronger opponent. Finland's snowy forests became a formidable battleground, as the nation displayed unwavering determination to protect its homeland, transforming the landscape into an inhospitable environment for enemy forces. 18. Blitzkrieg, lightning warfare and its impact. During the initial stages of World War II, a novel type of warfare emerged, distinguished by its emphasis on rapidity, unpredictability, and superior military power. The military strategy known as Blitzkrieg, derived from the German term lightning war, was employed. The new strategy implemented during the early years of the conflict had a significant impact, surprising several of Nazi Germany's opponents and establishing a new model for modern warfare. The origins and principles. The origins of Blitzkrieg can be traced to the period between World War I and World War II. The lessons learned from World War I, characterized by static trench warfare and significant human casualties, compelled military strategists to seek more agile and conclusive approaches to warfare. The maturation of technologies such as tanks, radios, and aircraft provided new opportunities for warfare. Blitzkrieg was fundamentally based on speed and surprise, involve launching swift and unforeseen attacks that catch the enemy off guard and disoriented. Concentration of force involves directing military resources towards specific strategic points in the enemy's defenses, rather than dispersing them across a wide front. Combined arms tactics involve the coordinated utilization of infantry, tanks, artillery, and air power to achieve a unified and effective approach. The Polish Campaign, the introduction of Blitzkrieg. The formidable effectiveness of Blitzkrieg was first demonstrated in September 1939, when it was employed during the invasion of Poland. German panzer divisions, with the assistance of Stuka dive bombers, successfully breached Polish defenses, encircled significant sections of the Polish army, and swiftly progressed. Poland was quickly conquered. The Lightning War, France and the Low Countries. After Poland, Germany shifted its focus to the west. In May 1940, the Wehrmacht initiated an unexpected offensive against Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. German forces successfully bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line by sweeping through the Ardennes forest, a strategic maneuver that was deemed impossible by French military strategists. The rapid advancement of enemy forces resulted in the isolation and encirclement of Allied units, ultimately leading to the swift defeat of France within a mere 6-week period. Barbarossa, the convergence of Blitzkrieg and the Soviet Union. In June 1941, Germany initiated the Blitzkrieg military strategy against the Soviet Union. The initial achievements were remarkable, involving the capture of extensive Soviet territories and multiple armies. The Blitzkrieg was ultimately halted due to the vast expanse of the Soviet Union, logistical difficulties, severe winter weather, and strong Soviet opposition. This campaign demonstrated the efficacy and constraints of Blitzkrieg tactics. The effects of warfare. Blitzkrieg demonstrated the transition from static trench warfare to mobile warfare. Mobility, integration of different military units, and expedited decision-making emerged as pivotal factors. The successful implementation of Blitzkrieg relied heavily on the crucial collaboration between ground forces and aircraft, particularly dive bombers. Air superiority emerged as a key strategic goal in military operations. Blitzkrieg's swift advancements and encirclements frequently induced panic and disarray among enemy forces, resulting in psychological warfare. The fear of lightning war became a powerful psychological weapon. The significance and teachings of the past. Blitzkrieg, a military strategy that emerged during World War II, revolutionized warfare and continues to exert influence in contemporary conflicts. Contemporary military doctrines, like the U.S. air-land battle and the Soviet Union's deep battle, are influenced by the principles of Blitzkrieg. Furthermore, the significance of joint operations, which involve the integration of various branches of the military, has become a fundamental aspect of contemporary warfare. However, Blitzkrieg had limitations. The strategy was highly dependent on surprise and proved to be ineffective in situations of prolonged resistance or difficult terrains, as observed in the Soviet Union and North Africa. In conclusion, it can be stated that Blitzkrieg, also known as Lightning War, brought about a significant transformation in the character of military operations. The rapid, concentrated, and coordinated assaults executed by this military force caused significant disruption to its adversaries and had a profound impact on the initial stages of World War II. Although not impervious, the principles of speed, combined arms, and psychological impact introduced by this entity have had a lasting impact on military strategy. 28. The Battle for Hue, Urban Combat in Vietnam. The Battle for Hue exemplifies the harshness and intricacy of urban warfare in the Vietnam War. During the Tet Offensive in 1968, the North Vietnamese Army and Viet Cong conducted a synchronized assault throughout South Vietnam, focusing on the historically and symbolically important city of Hue. This chapter explores the complexities, bravery, and human toll of the significant battle. The commencement of conflict. Hue, a former imperial capital, experienced a distressing event on January 31, 1968. Under the cover of darkness, numerous North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces infiltrated the city with the objective of overthrowing the South Vietnamese government and inciting a popular uprising. The city, renowned for its cultural heritage and serving as a symbol of national pride, transformed into a site of conflict. Urban warfare, also known as house-to-house combat, refers to military operations conducted in built-up areas where fighting takes place in and around buildings. The conflict in Hue was marked by fierce urban combat, involving close-quarters fighting in houses and streets. The North Vietnamese forces, deeply entrenched in the city's historic structures and fortified positions, opposed the counteroffensive conducted by U.S. Marines and South Vietnamese troops. The urban environment presented considerable difficulties for American soldiers who were primarily trained for jungle warfare. The unfamiliar terrain made it challenging, as potential threats could be hidden around every corner and buildings could serve as strongholds. The Citadel, a fortified structure, is currently facing a siege. The central feature of Hue was the Citadel, a fortified palace encompassed by sturdy stone walls and a moat, serving as the military headquarters for South Vietnam. The North Vietnamese swiftly gained control of the strategic location, transforming the Citadel into a formidable stronghold. The U.S. and South Vietnamese forces encountered significant challenges in their efforts to breach the defenses and recapture the Citadel. They had to advance gradually, facing continuous sniper fire and artillery barrages. The human toll. The impact of the battle extended beyond military casualties, as the civilian population of Hue endured significant suffering. Numerous individuals were affected by the conflict, experiencing the destruction of their residences and significant disruptions to their lives. The North Vietnamese were also responsible for executing individuals suspected of collaborating with the South Vietnamese government, which further darkened the battle's historical narrative. Tactics and technologies. The urban environment required tactical adaptations and the utilization of technology. Armored vehicles were used to maneuver through narrow streets, while infantry improved their techniques for clearing buildings. Despite weather limitations and the presence of enemy forces near civilians, air support played a vital role in displacing entrenched defenders. The consequences or outcomes that follow a particular event or situation. After a prolonged period of intense combat, the city of Hue was ultimately liberated, albeit with significant casualties. The city, once grand, now lies in ruins, with its cultural legacy compromised and its inhabitants deeply affected by the experience. The battle for Hue exemplified the intensity and intricacy of urban warfare, leaving lasting impressions on military tactics and the collective recollection of the Vietnam War. In this essay, I will reflect upon the concepts of valor and suffering. The battle for Hue demonstrates the bravery and endurance of the soldiers and civilians who faced its horrors. The narratives of bravery, selflessness, and camaraderie are closely connected to the accounts of hardship, grief, and the lasting psychological effects of warfare. The battle serves as a reminder of the intricate nature of warfare and the significant moral and ethical dilemmas it presents. In conclusion, it can be stated that the battle for Hue had significant implications for the Vietnam War, influencing perceptions, military strategies, and the overall narrative of the conflict. The film emphasized the difficulties of urban warfare, the casualties incurred during combat, and the resilient determination of the individuals who experienced it. The battle's echoes persist, providing insights into the nature of war and the resilience of the human spirit in times of chaos. 30. Guerrilla warfare in the 20th century. The strategies and tactics used in conflicts worldwide underwent significant changes at the beginning of the 20th century. Warfare evolved beyond battles between armies in uniform on open fields. The 20th century saw the emergence of guerrilla warfare, which is characterized by irregular and unconventional tactics, often employed by weaker parties. This chapter examines the historical development, consequences, and enduring significance of guerrilla warfare during this turbulent era. The fundamentals and principles. Guerrilla warfare relies on the principles of surprise, mobility, and extensive knowledge of the terrain. Guerrilla fighters, typically belonging to smaller and less well-equipped forces, employ these principles to launch attacks against a more powerful adversary, focusing on disrupting supply lines, infrastructure, and morale. The Irish War of Independence refers to the armed conflict that took place in Ireland from 1919 to 1921, during which Irish nationalists sought to end British rule and establish an independent Irish state. Guerrilla warfare was employed during the Irish War of Independence, 1919 to 1921, marking an early occurrence of this tactic in the 20th century. The IRA employed hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and sabotage to target British forces, highlighting the efficacy and adaptability of guerrilla strategies against a superior adversary. Mao Zedong's concept of People's War. Mao Zedong developed the doctrine of People's War, which enhanced guerrilla warfare tactics within the expansive territories of China. Mao employed strategies focused on garnering popular support, leveraging the challenging terrain, and transitioning from guerrilla warfare to conventional warfare. These tactics had a profound impact on inspiring revolutionary movements worldwide. The partisans of World War II were a diverse group of resistance fighters who operated in various countries during the war. World War II witnessed the widespread emergence of guerrilla movements in Europe and Asia. Partisan units in Yugoslavia, the Maquis in France, and resistance movements in occupied territories utilized their familiarity with the local terrain and the assistance of the civilian population to engage in acts of sabotage, subversion, and intelligence gathering against Axis forces. The Viet Cong and the Siu Kai tunnels. The Vietnam War exemplified the evolution and effectiveness of guerrilla warfare. The Viet Cong utilized dense jungles, intricate tunnel networks such as those in Siu Kai, and the cooperation or coercion of local villagers to confront the technologically advanced American and South Vietnamese forces. This demonstrated the difficulties that guerrilla warfare presents to conventional military strategies. The revolutionary fervor in Latin America. In Latin America's jungles and mountains, individuals such as Che Guevara aimed to incite revolutionary movements. The guerrilla movements in Cuba, Nicaragua, and Colombia demonstrated the complex relationship between political ideology, popular support, and irregular warfare, despite their differences in success and tactics. Afghanistan has historically been referred to as the graveyard of empires. The rugged terrains of Afghanistan served as the setting for guerrilla warfare against two superpowers during the 20th century. During the 1980s, the Mujahideen employed Stinger missiles and demonstrated the capacity of unconventional tactics to exploit vulnerabilities in the Soviet Union's military forces. The topic of discussion is lessons and legacies. Guerrilla warfare in the 20th century has had a lasting impact on contemporary military doctrine and geopolitical landscapes. The lessons derived from past experiences have influenced counterinsurgency strategies, highlighting the significance of gaining public support and adjusting to the dynamic and uncertain characteristics of unconventional warfare. In conclusion, it can be stated that in the 20th century, guerrilla warfare showcased the ability of non-conventional forces to influence conflicts and confront established powers. Guerrilla warfare has had a significant impact on the history of warfare, demonstrating the adaptability, resilience, and resourcefulness of its practitioners across various locations, such as the fields of Ireland, the jungles of Vietnam, and the mountains of Afghanistan. The examination of these conflicts offers understanding into the enduring human resilience and unwavering pursuit of political ambitions, regardless of the challenges faced.